Welcome to Story Flick Films, where every movie becomes a thrilling journey in minutes. No long waits, no boring explanations, just the biggest twists, shocking moments, epic action, and unforgettable endings packed into fast-paced movie recaps. From blockbuster adventures and emotional dramas to mind-bending sci-fi and suspenseful thrillers, we bring you the complete story with all the excitement intact. So hit subscribe, grab your seat, and get ready for a cinematic experience like never before. Because here, every movie has a story worth telling. Titanic is a 1997 Americana epica historical romance film written and directed by James Cameron. Incorporating both historical and fictional aspects, it is based on accounts of the sinking of RMS Titanic in 1912. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet star as members of different social classes who fall in love during the ship's ill-fated maiden voyage. The ensemble cast include Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, Francis Fisher, Bernard Hill, Jonathan Hyde, Danny Nucci, David Warner and Bill Paxton. Cameron's inspiration came from his fascination with the shipwrecks. He felt a love story interspersed with human loss would be essential to convey the emotional impact of the disaster. Production began on September 1, 1995. When Cameron shot footage of the Titanic wreck. The modern scenes were shot on board the Shershov Institute of Oceanology Research Villa Akademicumsties Keldysh, which Cameron had used as a base when filming the wreck. Scale models, computer-generated imagery and a reconstruction of the Titanic built at Baja Studios were used to recreate the sinking. Titanic was initially in development at 20th Century Fox, but delays and a mounting budget resulted in Fox partnering with the Paramount Pictures for financial help. It was the most expensive film ever made at the time, with a production budget of $200 million. Filming took place from July 1996 to March 1997. Titanic premiered at the Tokyo International Film Festival on November 1, 1997, and was released in the United States on December 19. It was distributed by Paramount Pictures in the United States and Canada and by 20th Century Fox in other territories. It was praised for its visual effects, performances, particularly those of DiCaprio, Winslet, and Gloria Stewart, production values, direction, score, cinematography, story, and emotional depth. Among other awards, the film received 14 nominations at the 70th Academy Awards and won 11, including a Best Picture and a Best Director. In doing so, it tied both All About Eve, 1950, for the record for the most Academy Award nominations, and Ben-Hur, 1959, for the most Academy Awards won by a film, making the Titanic the most successful individual film in Academy Award history. These records would be matched by 2016's La La Land and 2003's The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King respectively, although the nomination record was surpassed by 2025's Sinners in 2026. With an initial worldwide gross of over $1.84 billion, Titanic was the first film to reach the billion-dollar mark. 1993's Jurassic Park would later become the earliest released film to achieve this feat, via subsequent re-releases, and was the highest-grossing film of all time until Cameron's next film, Avatar, 2009, surpassed it in 2010. Income from the initial theatrical release, retail video, and soundtrack sales and U.S. broadcast rights exceeded $3.2 billion. Releases pushed the worldwide theatrical total to $2.264 billion, making the Titanic the second film to gross more than $2 billion worldwide after Avatar as of 2023. It is the fourth highest grossing film. In 2017, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Plot: in 1996, aboard the research Villa Akademicumsties Keldysh, treasure hunter Brock Lovett and his team explore the wreck of RMS Titanic, hoping to find a necklace known as the Heart of the Ocean. Instead, they recover a safe containing a drawing of a young woman wearing the necklace. The sketch is dated April 14, 1912. the day the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank, resulting in about 1,500 deaths. After seeing a television report about the discovery, centenarian Rose Dawson Calvert contacts Lovett, revealing she is the woman in the drawing. Hoping she can help locate the necklace, Lovett brings Rose and her granddaughter aboard the Caldish, where Rose recounts her experience in the Titanic. In 1912, 17-year-old Rose DeWitt Bukater boards the Titanic at Ena Southampton with her wealthy fiancé copyright, Cal Hockley, and her mother, Ruth. Rose is unhappy in the loveless engagement, but Ruth stresses that the marriage will resolve their financial problems. Rose contemplates suicide by jumping from the ship's stern, but is stopped by Jack Dawson, a pornomatic artist. Jack and Rose form a friendship, and Jack confesses his feelings for her. Though initially resistant, Rose realizes she has fallen in love with Jack, despite Gal's and Ruth's disapproval. Rose brings Jack to her stateroom and asks him to draw her nude wearing only the necklace. Afterward, they evade Gal's valet, Spicer Lovejoy, and have sex in a car in the cargo hold. On the foredeck, they witness the ship's collision with an iceberg and overhear officers discussing the severity of the situation. When Cal discovers Jack's sketch of Rose, he has Lovejoy plant the necklace on Jack, framing him for theft. Jack is arrested and locked in the Master at Arms office, and Cal pockets the necklace. As the Titanic sinks, women and children are prioritized for the lifeboats. Rose rescues Jack and they return to the deck, where Cal urges Rose to board a lifeboat, claiming he and Jack will board another. Cal unwittingly wraps his coat, containing the necklace, around her. As her lifeboat is lowered, Rose jumps back onto the ship, unwilling to leave Jack behind. Enraged, Cal grabs a pistol and chases them through the flooding ship, but gives up when they escape. Cal joins a lifeboat by pretending to be a child's father. As the flooded boat sinks, the stern rises into the air and Jack and Rose cling to the railing. The ship splits in two, and the stern sinks into the freezing water with the remaining passengers. Jack helps Rose onto floating debris and makes her promise to survive and live a full life. Jack dies from a hypothermia, but Rose is saved by a returning lifeboat and rescued by Carpathia. Rose hides from Cal and her mother and gives her name as Rose Dawson on her arrival in New York City. In the present, Rose reveals that Cal committed suicide after losing his fortune in the 1929 stock market crash. She tells the Caldish crew that Jack saved her in every possible way, and laments that her memories are all that she has left of him. Touched by her account, Lovett abandons his search for the necklace. Alone at night on the stern of the Caldish, Rose, who has kept the necklace in her possession, drops it into the sea above the wreck. Later, as she lies in her bed, photographs on her dresser depict a life of freedom and adventure inspired by Jack aboard the pristine Titanic. A young Rose reunites with Jack at the Grand Staircase, applauded by the passengers and crew who died in the sinking. Cast fictional characters Leonardo DiCaprio as Jack Dawson, an itinerant, poor orphan from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, who has traveled the world, including Paris. He wins 2 third-class tickets for the Titanic in a poker game and travels with his friend Fabrizio. He is attracted to Rose at first sight. Her fiancé copyrights invitation to dine with them the next evening enables Jack to mix with first-class passengers for a night. Cameron's original choice for the role was River Phoenix. However, he died in 1993. Although Jack was a fictional character, Ena Fairview Cemetery at Ena, Halifax, Nova Scotia, where 121 Titanic victims are buried, there is a grave labeled J. Dawson. The producers did not know of the real J. Dawson until after the film was released. Since Kate Winslet as Rose DeWitt Bukater, a 17-year-old girl from Philadelphia, who is forced into an engagement to billionaire Cal Hockley so she and her mother, Ruth, can maintain their high-class status after her father's death left the family debt-ridden. Rose boards the Titanic with Cal and Ruth as a first-class passenger and meets Jack. Since glorious to Arta as the modern-day Rose Dawson Calvert, Rose narrates the film in a framing device. The elderly Rose was partly inspired by the American artist Beatrice Wood. Since Billy Zania as Caledon Cal Hockley, Rose's arrogant and snobbish 30-year-old fiancé copyright, who is the heir to a Pittsburgh steel fortune. He is resentful of Rose's affection for Jack. A sense Frances Fisher as Ruth DeWitt Bukater, Rose's widowed mother, who arranges Rose's engagement to Cal to maintain her family's high society status. Like many aristocratic passengers portrayed in the film, her disposition is elitist and frivolous. She loves her daughter but believes that social position is more important than having a loving marriage. She strongly dislikes Jack, even though he saved her daughter's life. A sense Bill Paxton as Brock Lovett, a treasure hunter looking for the heart of the ocean in the wreck of the Titanic. In the present, time and funding for his expedition are running out. He reflects at the conclusion that, despite thinking about a Titanic for 3 years, he has never understood it until he hears Rose's story. A sense Susie Almeza as Elizabeth Lizzie Calvert, Rose's granddaughter, who accompanies her when she visits Lovett on the ship and learns of her grandmother's romantic past with Jack Dawson. A sense Danny Nussa as Fabrizio de Rossi, Jack's Italian best friend, who boards the Titanic with him after Jack wins 2 tickets in a poker game. Fabrizio fails to board a lifeboat when the Titanic sinks and is killed when one of the ship's funnels breaks and crashes into the water, crushing him and several other passengers to death. A sense David Warner as Spicer Lovejoy, an ex-Pinkerton constable and Cal's English valet and bodyguard. He monitors Rose and is suspicious about the circumstances surrounding Jack rescuing her. He dies when the Titanic splits in half, causing him to fall into a massive opening. Warner also appeared in the 1979 TV miniseries SOS Titanic, portraying passenger Lawrence Beasley. A sense Jason Beria as Tommy Ryan, an Irish third-class passenger who befriends Jack and Fabrizio. Tommy is killed when he is accidentally pushed forward and shot by a panicked First Officer Murdoch. I sense Alexandria Owens Sarnoa as Cora Cartmel, a young third-class girl who dances with Jack at the Irish party. In a deleted scene, Cora and her family drowned after they were trapped at the locked third-class gate. A sense Camilla Overbyrusa as Helga Dahl, a Norwegian immigrant and third-class passenger who falls in love with Fabrizio. While most of her scenes were cut and the secondary significance of her character was drastically reduced from the original screenplay to the final theatrical cut, Helga is most notably seen clinging onto the rail of the ship's stern with Jack and Rose before slipping into the frigid waters below. A sense Amy Guy Pat as Trudy Bolt, Rose's personal maid. Historical characters. Although not intended to be an entirely accurate depiction of events, the film includes portrayals of various historical figures. Kathy Bates also Margaret Molly Brown. Brown is looked down upon by other first-class women, including Ruth, as vulgar and new money. She is friendly to Jack and lends him a suit of evening clothes, bought for her son, when he is invited to dinner in the first-class dining saloon. She was dubbed the unthinkable Molly Brown by historians because, with the support of other women, she commandeered a lifeboat 6A from quartermaster Robert Hickens. As some aspects of this altercation are portrayed in Cameron's film. A sense Victor Garbra also Thomas Andrews, the ship's builder. Andrews is portrayed as a kind, decent man who is modest about his grand achievement. After the collision, he tries to convince the others, particularly Ismay, that it is a mathematical certainty that the ship will sink. He is depicted during the sinking of the Shiva as standing next to the clock in the first-class smoking room, lamenting his failure to build a strong and safe ship. Although this has become one of the most famous legends of the sinking of the Titanic, this story, which was published in a 1912 book, Thomas Andrews, Ship Builder, and thereafter perpetuated, came from John Stewart, a steward on the ship who in fact left the ship in boat number 15 at approximately 1:40 a.m. There were testimonies of sightings of Andrews after that moment. It appears that Andrews stayed in the smoking room for some time to gather his thoughts. He then continued assisting with the evacuation. Bernard Hill also Captain Edward John Smith. Smith planned to make the Titanic his final voyage before retiring. He retreats into the wheelhouse on the bridge as the ship sinks, dying when the windows burst from the water pressure whilst he clings to the ship's wheel. There are conflicting accounts as to whether he died in this manner or later froze to death in the water near the capsized collapsible lifeboat B. A sense Jonathan Hydia also J. Bruce Ismay, White Star Line's ignorant, Bush managing director. With the prospect of an earlier arrival in New York and favorable press attention, Ismay influences Captain Smith to go faster. Although the situation appears in popular portrayals of the disaster, it is unsupported by evidence. Say after the collision, he struggles to comprehend that his unsinkable ship is doomed. Ismay later boards Collapsible Sea, one of the last lifeboats to leave the ship, just before it is lowered. He was branded a coward by the press and public for surviving the disaster, while many women and children drowned. Since Eric Bradina also John Jacob Astor IV, a first-class passenger and the richest man on the ship. Rose introduces Jack to Astor and his 18-year-old wife, Madalena, Charlotte Chatton, in the first-class dining saloon. During the introduction, Astor asks whether Jack is connected to the Boston Dawsons, a question Jack deflects by saying that he is instead affiliated with the Chippewa Falls Dawsons. Astor is last seen as the glass dome over the grand staircase implodes and water surges in. Since Bernard Fox also Colonel Archibald Gracie IV. The film depicts Gracie making a comment to Cal that women and machinery don't mix and congratulating Jack for saving Rose from falling off the ship, unaware that Jack saved Rose from a suicide attempt. He is later seen offering to lead Jack and Rose to the remaining lifeboats during the sinking. Fox portrayed Frederick Fleeta in the 1958 film A Night to Remember. Since Michael Insignia also Benjamin Guggenheim, a mining magnate traveling in first class, he shows off his French mistress, Madame Albert, Fanny Brett, to his fellow passengers while his wife and 3 daughters wait for him at home. When Jack joins the first-class passengers for dinner after rescuing Rose, Guggenheim refers to him as a bohemian. Guggenheim is seen in the flooding grand staircase during the sinking, saying he is prepared to go down as a gentleman. Jonathan Evans Jones also Wallace Hartley, the ship's bandmaster and violinist, who plays uplifting music with his colleagues on the boat deck as the ship sinks. As the final plunge begins, he leads the band in a final performance of Nearer, My God, to Thee, to the tune of Bethany, and dies in the sinking. Since Mark Lindsay Chapman also Chief Officer Henry Wild, 21 the ship's chief officer, who lets Cal board a lifeboat because he has a child in his arms. Before he dies, he tries to get boats to return to the sinking site to rescue passengers by blowing his whistle. After he freezes to death, Rose uses his whistle to attract the attention of 5th Officer Lowe, leading to her rescue. Since Ewan Stewart also First Officer William Murdoch, the officer in charge of the bridge when the Titanic is struck an iceberg. During a rush for the lifeboats, Murdoch shoots Tommy Ryan, as well as another passenger, in a momentary panic, and then commits suicide by shooting himself in the head. When Murdoch's nephew Scott saw the film, he objected to his uncle's portrayal, seeing it as damaging to Murdoch's heroic reputation. A few months later, Fox Vice President Scott Neeson went to Alberti, Scotland, where Murdoch lived, to deliver a personal apology, and also presented a £5,000 donation to Alberti High School to boost the school's William Murdoch Memorial Prize. Cameron apologized on the DVD commentary, but stated that there were officers who fired gunshots to enforce the women and children first policy. According to Cameron, his depiction of Murdoch is that of an honorable man, not of a man gone bad or of a cowardly murderer. He added, "I'm not sure you'd find that same sense of responsibility and total devotion to duty today." This guy had half of his lifeboats launched before his counterpart on the port side had even launched one. That says something about character and heroism. Since Jonathan Phillips also Second Officer Charles Lightoller. Lightoller took charge of the port side evacuation. In the film, Lightoller informs Captain Smith that it will be difficult to see icebergs without breaking water and, after the collision, suggests that the crew begin boarding women and children in the lifeboats. He is seen brandishing a gun and threatening to use it to keep order. He can be seen on top of a collapsible bow when the first funnel collapses. Lightoller was the most senior officer to survive the disaster. Since film producer Kevin Delanoy also Third Officer Herbert Pittman who survived the sinking and managed Lifeboat 5. Since Simon Crania also Fourth Officer Joseph Boxall, the officer in charge of firing flares and manning a Lifeboat 2A during the sinking. He is shown on the bridge wings helping the seamen firing the flares. Since Ian Grada also Fifth Officer Harold Lowe, As the only officer to lead a lifeboat to retrieve survivors of the sinking from the icy waters. The film depicts slow rescuing Rose. Since Edward Fletcher as the sixth officer James Moody, as the only junior officer to have died in the sinking. The film depicts Moody admitting Jack and Fabrizio onto the ship only moments before it departs from Southampton. Moody is later shown following Murdoch's orders to put the ship to full speed ahead, and informs Murdoch about the iceberg. He is last seen clinging to one of the davits on the starboard side after having unsuccessfully attempted to launch collapsible St. James Lancaster as Father Thomas Biles, a second-class passenger and a Catholic priest from England. He is portrayed praying and consoling passengers during the ship's final moments. St. Leopoldo Ada Elsa Ravina Asa Isadora and Ida Strauss. Isidore is a former owner of R.H. Macy and Company, a former congressman from New York, and a member of the New York and New Jersey Bridge Commission. During the sinking, the couple were offered seats on a lifeboat together. Isidore refused to go before all women and children had been evacuated, and urged his wife Ida to go ahead. Ida is portrayed refusing to board the lifeboat, saying that she will honor her wedding pledge by staying with Isidore. They are last seen lying on their bed, embracing each other as water fills their stateroom. The real Isidore and Ida Strauss were also seen in an embrace, but were actually seated on chairs in the A-deck before being swept by waves as the ship made its final plunge. Since Martin Jaravisa also Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon, a Scottish baronet who is rescued in a lifeboat 1. Lifeboats 1 and 2 were emergency boats with a capacity of 40. Situated at the forward end of the boat deck, these were kept ready to launch in case of a person falling overboard. On the night of the disaster, Lifeboat 1 was the fourth to be launched, with 12 people aboard, including Duff Gordon, his wife and her secretary. The baronet was much criticized for his conduct during the incident. It was suggested that he had boarded the emergency boat in violation of the women and children first policy, and that the boat had failed to return to rescue those struggling in the water. He offered £5 to each of the lifeboat's crew, which those critical of his conduct viewed as a bribe. The Duff Gordons at the time, and his wife's secretary in a letter written at the time and rediscovered in 2007, stated that there had been no women or children waiting to board in the vicinity of the launching of their boat. There is confirmation that Lifeboat 1 of the Titanic was almost empty, and that First Officer William Murdoch was apparently glad to offer Duff Gordon and his wife and her secretary a place, simply to fill it, after they had asked if they could get on. Duff Gordon denied that his offer of money to the lifeboat crew represented a bribe. The British Board of Trade's inquiry into the disaster accepted Duff Gordon's denial of bribing the crew, but maintained that, if the emergency boat had rowed towards the people who were in the water, it might very well have been able to rescue some of them. Since Rosalind Erasa also Lady Duff Gordon, a world-famous fashion designer and Sir Cosmo's wife. She is rescued in Lifeboat 1 with her husband. They never lived down rumors that they had forbidden the lifeboat's crew to return to the wreck site in case they would be swamped. Jarvis and Ayres are husband and wife in real life. Since Rochelle Rose as Noah L. Leslie, Countess of Roths. The Countess is shown to be friendly with Cal and the DeWitt Boucators. Despite being of a higher status in society than Sir Cosmo and Lady Duff Gordon, she is kind, and helps row the boat and even looks after the steerage passengers. Since Scott G. Anderson as Frederick Fleet, the lookout who saw the iceberg. Fleet escapes the sinking ship aboard Lifeboat 6. Since Paul Brightella as Quartermaster Robert Higgins, one of the 6 quartermasters and at the ship's wheel at the time of collision. He is in charge of Lifeboat 6. He refuses to go back and pick up survivors after the sinking. Since Martin East as Reginald Lee, the other lookout in the Crow's Nest. He survives the sinking, box office including revenue from the 2012, 2017 and 2023 reissues. Titanic earned $674.3 million in North America and $1.598 billion in other countries, for a worldwide total of $2.264 billion. It became the highest-grossing film of all time worldwide in 1998, beating a Jurassic Park 1993. Film remained so for 12 years. Anila Avidara, 2009, also written and directed by Cameron, surpassed it in 2010. would hold the record for being Paramount's highest-grossing film domestically until it was dethroned by Top Gun: Maverick, 2022, 25 years later. March 1, 1998, it became the first film to earn more than $1 billion worldwide, and on the weekend April 13, 2012, a century after the original vessel's foundering, Titanic became the second film to cross the $2 billion threshold during its 3D re-release. Box Office Mojo estimates that Titanic is the fifth highest grossing film of all time in North America when adjusting for ticket price inflation. The site also estimates that the film sold over 128 million tickets in the US in its initial theatrical run. The 1998 North American box office set a record year for the film industry with a combined grand total of $7 billion from Titanic and numerous in-year releases including Armageddon, Saving Private Ryan, Godzilla, A Bug's Life, There's Something About Mary, The Waterboy, Deep Impact, Rush Hour, Dr. Dolittle, and Lethal Weapon 4. Titanic was the first foreign-language film to succeed in India, which claims to have the largest movie-going audience in the world. Hindustan Times report attributes this to its similarities and shared themes with most Bollywood films. Initial theatrical Titanic received steady attendance after opening in North America on Friday, December 19, 1997. By the end of the weekend, theaters were beginning to sell out. The film earned $8,658,814 on its opening day and $28,638,131 over the opening weekend from 2,674 theaters, averaging to about $10,710 per venue, and ranking number 1 at the box office, ahead of Mouse Hunt, Scream 2. And Tomorrow Never Dies. It would go on to break The Godfather Part 3's record for having the highest Christmas Day gross, generating a total of $9.2 million for its second weekend. The film made $35.6 million, making it the biggest December weekend gross, replacing Scream 2 by New Year's Day. Titanic had made over $128 million. Had increased in popularity and theaters continued to sell out. In just 44 days, it became the fastest film to approach the $300 million mark at the domestic box office, surpassing the former record held by Jurassic Park, which took 67 days to do so. Titanic would hold this record until 1999 when it was taken by Star Wars, Episode I: The Phantom Menace. 178. Additionally, the film reached the $400 million mark within 66 days, which was the fastest at the time, a record matched by Spider-Man in 2002. Films were surpassed in 2004 by Shrek 2. Titanic's highest grossing day was Saturday, February 14, 1998, on which it earned $13,048,711, more than 8 weeks after its North American debut. On March 14, it surpassed Star Wars as the highest-grossing film ever in North America. It stayed at number 1 for 15 consecutive weeks in North America. This was a record for any film, beating Botatutsia and Beverly Hills Cop for having the highest number of consecutive weeks at the top of the box office. By April 1998, the film's number 1 spot was overtaken by Lost in Space. It stayed in theaters in North America for almost 10 months before finally closing on Thursday, October 1, 1998, with a final domestic gross of $600,788,188, equivalent to $12.05 million in 2025. North America, the film made double its North American gross, generating $1,242,413,080 and accumulating a grand total of $1,843,201,268 worldwide from its initial theatrical run. The film cut to Rosie approaching the railing just as she does not in the critical version. She would vesa the reel and pulls herself up so that she can look away into the ocean dark depth. This is where the ending degree. We all know the original ending. She tosses the necklace into the sea, watching Ida sink into the dark, its final resetting a place next to the VH and the E, its finally resetting place next to Vavage and Thea 1500 lose the night. The Necklacia shaking feed into the end sequence where it is up to intership if Rose passes away. If Rose passes away or Isa dreaming. In the alternate ending, Lazia sees her grandmother climbing on Thea railing. After inclination, Lazia handed the Brock Batra to the scene, presumptively thinking she may jump overboard like she was planning to Willie on the Titanic. Rose warned them to no to come any closer. Thing to drop on Thea necklace. Brock is shocked to see that it has had the heart of the ocean. Thea interior time she can be there on Thea research file. The other arrive at Thea scene. Brock asked her if he could hold it one time and she lets him. She then throw if not the sea behind her. Brokia asked her if he could not hold it only a time and she lets him. She then threw it into the sea behind her. Brock and Rosia share a laugh and there is a Moria inflection of a romantic spark between him and Lizzie. Only then does the sea scenes tell the star and the fade in Toa the same final sequence where Rosia seemingly joins Jack and the roast of the war yogurts in the either death or a dream. It may seem like a sweet sequencia and it worked well on paper. Brown gets it to held the necklace one time before Rose throw it into the water sea. Both of them getting closer. It should work but there are survival reason why it is not. While the alternate ending of Titanic does not work, the main reason why this ending does not work is the juicy dialogues that handholds the audience through the message of the film. Brock as he tries to batter with her for the necklace says I don't know what to say to woman who tries to jump off the Titanic when it's not shaking and then jumps picky and then jumps back on what it is. Then as Brock called the diamond in his head, Rose tell him that he is looking for the taser in the wrong place. Only life is the priceless and making each day see and making each day see with it that she slowly pulls it from his dress up jams on her score, swipe and she throw into the water. There is a comedy moment when an author character says that really SHS Lady Buta the folks here is not Bo has finally moved on from the years spent obviously from the years he spent obviously searching for the necklace. This should reflect the theme as a setup in the film and it does but note it in a good way. Isn't gently talking the audience what is happening word for word. The necklace means nothing in the long run. Brown should focus on the thing right in front of him. This ending gives him the chance to see it, hold Ida and move on. But in the critical cut, he already has moved on. The alternate ending is the directive of the scene before it. In the scene that only takes us a moment before the star of the ending, Brock and Lacey are speaking as Thea's surprisal and being looking back on Toa the Vessel. He parents the same seeker we see at the start of the film when Thea research team retides in the scene that only takes a moment before the star of ending. Brock and Lacey are sparking as the some memorable Ipingoi Paka on the Vessel. He parents the same cigar we see at the start of the film when they research them retries the scene nothing that to plan to smoke it when he found the diamond he chucks the cigar overboard and say 3 years I thought of nothing except Titanic but I never go to it I never let it and that is the end of the scene and it goes into the scene where Rose has the iconic moment Toa herself when she lets go of the diamond into the motion. He broke to see the diamond in the alternate cut, but here he is the much more meaningful and it does not cheapen Brock moment moving on scene in the moment before both Ross and Brock have something physical that let go of sheep, physical that let go of she has the diamond. He has the cigar, he was saving to smoke when he found it. Both items end up in the same place and it is a wonderful theaters and the visual apparel that does not seem out of place in the film like alternate ending. Alternate ending aren't usually always cute from reason for better or divorce. Sometimes their sequel baggage only in some countries movie ended differently than in other countries. The audience can be unfulfilled with the ending and the case it to be reserved. Some things that they simply do not wear like here. Other time it is hard to imagine why the would sculpt such a perfect ending. Also for Titanic, as for Titanic, Camerona made the right choice with its ending. The alternate ending may be a fun look into how the movie could have ended, but it is only a cheesy comedic message in the comparison to the emotional ending we all know. When Rose detailed to confirm as Titanic ending theory, Titanic told the unfortunately love story of Rose and Jack with the ending leaving viewers questioning what was happening. but when details in Rosia clothing confirmed the sadness theory about Titanic ending, James Cameron Titanic took the real-life target of the RMS Titanic to tell the factual story of a first-class young woman and a third-class young man aboard the ship weary against all odds while in love and they stayed together during the shaking of the ship through their romance damaged her target. Titanic is all to by all Rosia as she shops her experience on board the ship during its target maiden bow and it's the first time she openly talks about Jack and their show when life out a passenger romance. At the end of the Titanic it's revealed all Rose and head a heart of the ocean with her the interior or a time and they decide to drop it into the ocean over the side of the shipwreck and not revealing to Richard human Barakalov at note her family that she kept at the diamond for the decide. Titanic ends with the old Rose asleep and the camera going back to she fake as it slowly goes back to how it was with very singly detail in place as Rose enter the first class section and meets Jack the grand searches and one detail in Rose dreams to confirm that was the moment Rose died. Rose dress at the end of the Titanic confirms she is in heaven. In the final scenes of the Titanic is the camera enter the first class section which shows she welcomed by all the passengers who died in the shaking of the Titanic and there no social class distribution at this time. Rose is wearing a white dress with a white maclac top and the shirt with the gems from top to bottom, and also pointed out by viewers on the Reddit and more. It's a white version of the dress and white dinner when Jack was invited to the first class side of the ship. Rose famously met Jack at the Grand Shara when she arrived and again after dinner when he asked her if she wanted to go another third class be pretty with him. Rosia wearing a white version of the specific dress at the end of Titanic is seen also the symbol of her. Rose wearing a white version of the specific dress at the end of Titanic is seen a symbol of Hera entering heaven at the moment. That's why she written with the Jack and Isa welcomed by the rest of the passengers so with some of those closer to her like Ia Thomas Andrew Hermine Trudy and Thea Jack's Hermine Truly and the Jack bestie girl Cora at the front of the crowd. The scene and the Rose dress also bring Jack and Rose story to full circle giving a new meaning to Jack make it count. Meet me at the clock. Not from the first class dinner scene where Rose was wearing the red version of the dress at the show. Rose feeling the promise of fan not letting to go on to him again. A fan not letting go and meeting him again. Titanic give a hard meaning ending to a Rose and the Jack by having them return. But where exactly the movie final scene take place has made way for a lot of debris over the years. Among the most popular endership of the Titanic ending is the Rose is the dreaming after telling her Rose story to love out and her crew sampling how she was the broken free from that secret and so can return with the Jack even if it just the dream. The most accepted interpretation however is that about Rose dying at the end of the Titanic and the arriving at the afterlife with Jack and the rest of the passenger and if so the white dress hinted at the her going to heaven with the everyone else Titanic ending explaining what happened to Jack and a Rose. Jam Cameron 1997 movie budget itself 11 Academy Awards included Best Pictures when it released using a combination of fake and real characters from the Drum Fizzle, Katie Vinkson and the Laron and Lord Drayo star of allied characters on board the Titanic in the romantic historical drama. The story is split between two different times period when the first in the heart of 1996 with the first in the heart of 1996 a research vessel beings exploring the voyage of the Titanic led by Barakalov and his team. Let Barakalov and his team cover a safe in the hope of it continue a necklace with a large rare diamond known as the heart of the ocean. Instead, they find a drawing of a young nude woman wearing that very necklace. The sketch is dated April 14th. 1992. The sketch is dated April 14, 1912, the same day the Titanic hit that ice. The same day, the Titanic hit that the ice bag roast in the crew, informing them she went off from the drawing. She thought about the records her tell of how she met Jack and the events that led to ship sinking. From her, he cued back to 1912. As we say, at the 17 years old, Rose will feed the kid port on the HMS Titanic bound for America. But she sees herself she linking the Titanic to a self-ship talking her away in the Chinese to marry Ked and call Hockley. When Rose decide to commit suicide only a night and the jump off the back of sheep as she ends up briefing Jack Adosin, a poor young artist who won a third-class ticket to the Titanic is a poker game. Why does Rose writer here mocking not a call after a drawing, Jack and Rose grow closer together. Rosia brings Jack to her stateroom and Thea pays him to sketch her nude. Wearing in the heart of the ocean necklace, something called gifted her earlier in the movie. She never particularly liked wearing it. It was bulky and Thea heavy, iconically symbolizing her own heavy heart at this proposed marriage. After drawing her sketch, Rose leaving Thea drawing inside the safe alongside Thea diamond and a knot reading drilling now you. After drawing her sketch, Rosia leaves the drawing inside the safe alongside the diamond and a knot reading a darling now you can keep us both look at it in your safe. This is of course her permeable way of saying you to Kala and his controlling way with the Safia serving as a metaphor for Rose by Antoine entering the Titanic. This is of course her provable way of seeking few to Kala and his controlling way with the Samia serving as a metaphor for Rose's life period to ending the Titanic. Please as her way of deliberating herself thank Toa Jack help. After the pair make love to one another, they head up on the deck and the warship collision with the iceberg overhearing officer decision how serious the situation is. While this is going on, Kay returns to find Jack's sketch and the rose node. He has lovey and joy slip the heart of the ocean necklace into Jack card. This framing his as a theme. Unfortunately, he confirmed Dina the Master at Arms office down below. Call is there to see Jack of the taking of the necklace for himself and hitting a Jack for good measures. Rose head to find Jack framing him from his handcuffs with an axe. After a couple of questionable practice short seals Thea miraculously break his bonds. The pair manage to make it back on the attack again where Call catches up with Ama both and opportunely for Rose to leave the parent itself with the Kala promising that they all will be following soon in their own life board. They want of course as the deal is for a Call and the Jack is the decide to stay on the ship and Ro decide at the last time not to leave and the scrambly back aboard to the pod. It is the last of few for Call garbage love joyable pistola and the chases them into the floating ding from in the first class when Thea disappear out of view. Kyle realizing with better iron the Rose has actually been the wearing Cull or the full time. The one with the heart of the Oceana inside Paul decide to Abner sheep and does so by snatching up a crying child and the pacing her to and poisoning Asa her connected father. The pair manage to get abroad alive aboard and they survive. Kyle decide to abroad ship and does so by searching up her crying child and deposing her the connected father. The pair manage to get abroad to lifeport and they survive. All thought CO does not get a couple of the drying look from the officer and aboard with the time running out and the ship quickly filling with the water. Jack and Rose into the board deck. All at the lifeboards are going and the sheep return in the starting to rise. They read desperately calling to the certain rail where they watch the informants find Gaia who falls and the bombs off the sheep properly. The ship breaks in half giving the pair a couple of the previous momentum before they both fall into the freezing water together. The Titanic forever lost it to the depth of the ocean. How does Rosia survive? Why can't Jack join her in the freezing water? Rose and the Jake area momently spared before deciding to leave the crowd of people scrambling for help. Together they find a floating door and the attempts to survive. Jack and Rosia both to try get on the together boot their combined feet buckets it. We actually see them both attempting these once. I mean they could have tried a few times after all but at the end Jack said the confident to his fate. He makes the decision to sacrifice his own life so Rose can lie here. So in the end Jack holds on the end edge of the door Willie Rose lies on her back. Now there is the subject of the hypothermic and the couple of the conversion but ignoring the time pass and the Rose Isa eventually saved by a running time lifeboard. So where is the heart of the ocean but happen to Call? As the film research it climax the survivor from the Titanic are deceived by the Ramsa capturing who rescue the survivor. Rosia noticed Call venting around trying to find her but she managed to stay hiding. That's the last we see of Call whom we learn. Countries of the Rosen narration in the present lifetime actually commit a suicide after losing hit the fortunate in the Wall Street crash of 1929. In the theatrical release, we will get to the alternate scene shortly. Loved this idea to give up searching for the heart of the ocean believing it's a Lord cause. He finally understand the emotional Toa remove this the horrifying accident and decide to let the past reset. However, alone on the recent that night, Rosia takes out of the heart the ocean from her pocket. She had it with her the whole time. She drops it into the sea, allowing it to be lost alongside the wage. Safe in the knowledge that no Onia will find it. at least not anytime soon. That night, rode back to her room and a sleep peacefully bed and sleep peacefully. Does she pass away in her sleep or is she still awake? It's all subjective since the camera and herself are leaving his Winna deliberately ambitious. The script simply states Shay is very still and could be sleeping or to sometime else with the familiar music with the playing car with a similar with the familiar music with the playing a camera pawns across by and pictures of pharaohs in her life iconic talking partina all the different activities she and Thea Jack promise while another they did not do from horsing riding through to theorizing a family row she made the most of her life and the throwing her heart of the ocean and the sea feels like her finding a bit of the closure from a very fulfilling life. Not only that, but Jackie also promised Rose while they were both freezing outside that she is the going to die on the old lady warm in her bed. This only reinforced the idea that Shay is the dead. However, on the other side of the debut, you could argue that Rosia has not passes away. She alive, a long happy life in the married and with the kids. But inside of researching Thea afterline with her loving family, Shay ends up with a man who changed her life back when she was a teenager. When Shay was a teenager, someone she only knew for a weekend. Why would she give up all of that to be in the afterlife with Thea Jack? We will let you be the judge of which side of the argument you fall on. Given Titanic is a romantic drama throw, we are more insight to see as Thea forever. And as the film closes out, we cut to the Titanic once more as Rose and the Jack are returned together at the grand staircase applied by all Thea vooded on the ship. What happened in Thea alternate ending? The alternate ending is different, and by different we mean absolutely difficult. Here the ending Isa changed to see lazy. Rose grandfather sporting her grandmother climb up on Thea railing. She researched forever with Thea Burgor. Rose tells them not to gate where Rose tells them not to get Anya closer. She holds up part of the Oceana and the theaters to drop it. You had that the whole time progily. Rose explained she did not think about assailing the diamond but could not do it given it made her think of the call. Rose's true purpose on this trip was to put it the heart of the ocean back where it belongs. Brock pulled the Rose to let him hold the diamond just once but Rosia tell Brock that he looks for the Tessera in the wrong place telling him that life is the priceless and they should make each date take. Rose tosses the diamond. Rose tosses the diamond aboard Willie Brock's team while Brock's team show up and beyond including the same scene of Thea Jim hitting the water issues before we cut back to B and the Rose. The former laugh at this team before asking Lazy to a dance. Let's be clear, this does not make it into the final cut as the original Isa the Pretty Pictures as the original Isa the Pretty Peach preferred for Thea message as the original is Pretty Peach a perfect for the messaging Titanic ending explaining how did Jack love help Rose in the landing of fulfilling the life even 27 years after Titanic release. Jack Dawson and the Rosia romance revive the most capturing Thea and ending a portrayal of love in cinematic history. It's been almost 30 since the release of Titanic and the James Cameron directed epic romance drama continue to be box office powerhouse. The 1997 film remains the fulfilled highest crossing a movie her mood having brought a whooping $2.264 and $264 million worldwide. After a waiter, Avengers Endgame and a usually romantic story do not win a Stranger 11 Oscar by Titanic stated that a Road to Leonardo description and Tal Winslet character as Jasden and Rosia David Buck are widely regarded as the most capturing and the ending portrayal of love in a cinematic history. Their undeniable history continued to race in awe with the audience decide after decide. Did Titanic get a word ending? With a James Cameron awaited. The Way of Thea Water has passed Titanic on the list of the all-time top-grossing movie. His 1997 Oscar winner recently got a boost from a 25th anniversary theatrical release that the play to sold out at theatrical and Thea earned the film another $50 million worldwide. It's a time money to Thea power of Titanic Cinti love story and the distarter movie thrill that the even with the movie re-aired available from a home viewing fans are still willing to go see it again in theaters. But but Onya thinks they won't get in the theater. Xena a chance to see the alternate ending of Titanic, a longer and more delayed coda that the Cameron ultimately trimmed down into the mini versions in the theater edit. Many argue Cameron made the right choice and avoided shanking the movie a final emotional beat. But are the audience linking up to see the Titanic again, actually missing out? Polly and we're split. So we are here to present to our audience and to decide, is the alternate ending of Titanic better than the original? Plug-in code is now in a session. Tasha, let's start with a quick rundown on the two versions we are dabbing here. James Cameron from Titanic as a treasure hunt, where in 1996 Libro Glovart and his crew area searching for the heart of the ocean, a massive B diamond built into a necklace that they supposedly went down with the Titanic. After finding a drawing of a nude woman wearing the heart of the ocean in the Titanic safe where they accepted to find the diamond, they tracked down the subjects of the painting. Elderly society rose to fill them in a way. Her time on the Titanic in 1912 when she was played by Kitchell Winslet. In theatrical ending 1996, Rosie asleep out of bed after the story is over. Quality pulls her out of her pocket and throw it in the theatrical ending 1996. A Rose sleep out of bed after the story is over and Key pulls the heart of the ocean out of her pocket and throw it into the sea. She had it all along as a keepsake of her diamond romance with the young poker Jack, and did not tell Baraka, his crew, or her altered granddaughter Lizzie, who also owned the slave pot. Then she goes back to bed and the dreams of 1912, or maybe dies at the end time with the Jack. That's my internship for sure. But some people definitely see it differently. In the longer originally ending, Baraka and Lizzie see her on deck and think she about to kill herself by jumping over a pond. They friend to her and see she has the necklace and she lets Brig touch it in, and they understand he never going to own it before she tosses it into the water. Otherwise she ending is much the same. Does that sum up everything we need to know? Let me stress the tonal difference of these two scenes. Backward by James Horner at third score, than the repair of the classic themes. The officially ending to Titanic plays out as a moment of quiet closer. The alternate ending is kind of like a Super Bowl commercial of the actual ending, where all Roz is the suddenly played by the. Let me start the tonal difference of these two scenes. Backward by James Honor eel score, then a repair of classic themes. The official ending to Titanic plays out as a moment of quiet closer. The alternate ending is kind of like a Super Bowl commercial priority of the actual ending, where all Rosie suddenly played by the ripping grandma from the wedding single presentation of evidence. With the Titanic is better. Tasha, the cast for the Titanic, it's all a ending I get for Cameron. Then with the similar version, it's beauty he pass on Rose and her emotions and on the 1912 love story that make these a movie. What is, you don't have to worry about anybody else feeling about a chunking that the diamond and what I say ghosted everyone else on that hood and on that bee, but that leaves everybody else a story unsolved. Poor Brock might just spend the rest of his life looking for a necklace he never going to find. Willie Rose just slightly smug. Bet it or you are no dice on his part. Do you know just not care about anyone else feeling here? Patch is the case for Titanic originally ending. It's Brock spend their horse listening to Rose tell here a story. Patch is the case for Titanic originally ending. It broke spend 3 hours listening to Rose tell the story only to go back on the hunt for the heart of the ocean. Then the mana deserve the good of failure that he comes with a suspense task. Bro were charming enough in the movie because Bill Paxton was a god among men, but an awesome level he the anti-Cameron into Cameron words no, he spent an unamagably amount of money and the time building a deep sea just for the thriller of going where no man has gone before, or in the cast of his actual Titanic wage device to fill the ghost of the past. Broke just want a money. Cameron described him in the Titanic screenplay as a vile. First a talking prisoner hunt, a slave super part of the part heroing part adventure and a part victim cleaner. Mana pass on the victim cleanser. Salman the guys all hot hair. I did not care about his feeling and draw this right to keep him in the dark about the heart of the ocean. Tasha, the case for Titanic heart and ending brutal mad cleaner. Men area people too. Okay, if you don't care about the emotion of the ring, how about the humor, bro? Stage assistant Louise played by Louise Urbendi. Speak for all of the speak for all of us. Weena Rose has the diamond and the he Elsa that really sucks. Lady he right and it said the creatures broke and his team area running out of money and they are spend 3 years of their lives on these a thing. Ro just whippies into the sea in front of them. She has the right. It's a hurt after all. But don't Brock and Thea Levi's also have the right to know their request is over and that this woman Delia lied to them, stamped them and cut Emma off the knees is not glossing over all of that a little cheap batches the Kazi for Titanic original ending. The Rosia nose belt did not buy happiness. CD per 2 hours and 45 minutes and she actually a helping Prague by making that bracelet a diamond disappear in the alternate cut. He would know where to drive next. And to your point, Rose looks downright a censor in the alternate cut. She has a real drag to me. Hell ever smile on her face. She dangerous. He heard of the ocean over the back of sheep, tuning a prop for his greed. It's real first a draft from the Cameron. We all know a stranger to on the nose dialogues. Now this scene was the everything he wanted it to see but should not say out loud. We know why it would be hard for the Brocket to have the heart of the ocean and why a rose need to unload its feet into Thea. It would be bad for the Brock to have the heart of the ocean and why a rose needed to unload its feet into the water in order to move on from her past and Thea more loyal. Tasha the keys for Thea Titanic art ending. Hope why you are noticing me on the. It's for your own a good angel. It's take a real sad to see I am financially running you and macking at the last 3 years of your life pointless without even telling you about it for your own good. You should be less materialist but I will get you the point on Rose and Ice facial experience in the alter ending that was the word look. One thing I did not love about the alternate ending is the little moment of Vicro where everyone thinks a Rose is about to jump into the sea and to kill herself. It seems a chief as a wire to go up the THR of the moment. But Ida does make for an interesting callback to young Rose contemplating suicide by a similar hanging of the kill herself. Ida seems a cheap as a way to go up the theaters of the moment, but it does make for an interesting callback to younger Rose competing suicide by a similar a hanging of the railing of the Titanic when she and the disappear of the marriage she being forced into. I am all for a visual and the narrative callback between different age in a story like this that spins to in a story like these that spends so much time, patches the cause for Titanic originally ending. Am you also all for visual and the narrative callback between different years in a story but only when they are noted discarded like scene from the crash. Tasha gas for Titanic art ending. Okay, come on, okay. Come on. And you don't to get anything out of the moment where Rose let Brock hold 2 diamond he been looking for all time this just for a moment and he consciously make the decision to let it go and not try to stop her and then he laughed like Alonia at that he just let go. Paxton himself said he was 5 with the curse and that his own story did not need relationship but that the kind of thing actor to say all the time when they are trying to be good sport and Peakson himself said he was a 5 with the curse and that his own story did not need relation but that the kind of the things actors say all the time when they are trying to be good as sport and they promote their project so without complaining about their scene as a getting but I think he does strong work in this scene and I really enjoy the why that he commercial broke confident emotionally in this moment. He no does not have or not to the heart of the ocean if it is not slave. He knows he can't snatch off at this old lady and accept to keep it. But he also consciously choosing to let go of years of his life and who knows how much money all for the sake of stir any right to a heart of the ocean if it is left he know he can't snatch it off as this lady and accept to keep it but he also consciously choosing to let go of years of his life and who know how much money all for the sake of a stranger because symbolic meant in meaningful patches the case for Titanic original ending. I don't think Paxton blowing smoke or the remaining agent of his director when he says Cameron made the right move cutting a resolution for his story out of the film that because Brock is not a character in the story will require resolution, has the audience. This is Rose's story. Here a romantic saga her push to become a anti-independent woman divorce from the culture norms. When we were in the isolation, The only way any of us gets to see this alternate ending, yeah, we get more of the sweet packs and the juices but is not bring the weight of the previous two, plus a see completely through Rose eye by Thea actual ending, we have lost track of Thea Brock's edge for the heart of the is notable breaking the weight of the previous time pulse. It's not bring the weight of Thea previous 2+ hours seen completely through Rose's fears, by the actual ending. We have lost Jacob the Brock search for the heart of the Oceana instead through history just as he has. Tasha the case for Titanic heart ending. Don't you think her moment with the game is some more meaningful when she has an audience? She's saying goodbye again to Jacka and to her youth and to her life. Effectively, I like having other people there to share the moment and understand the impact of it, particularly her granddaughter of seeing Rose and her life in a new light in that moment and also watching her inheritance sink to the bottom of the sea. She has a right to know about that too. That is the case for Titanic originally ending. Rose does not owe anyone jack sheet or jack sheeta for that matter. When Rose out tweener Rose out too. That is the case for a Titanic original ending. Rose does no and not any jack sheet or jack sheet for that matter when Rose out to the edge of the Brock ship in the actual final of the film. She carrying a lifeful life and a romance that never died, releasing the necklace alter forehand reality and is she able to draft into her memorable 48 Titanic and ill-fitted B and Jack and the forgettable dream font. Who would want anyone around for that? Resuming about your dad lover is the definition of me time. Closing arguments. The area consider that Titanic the case for Titanic earth ending. Yeah, we'll just say this, just the sinking of the Titanic is not just Rose and Thea. Jack's story is the tragedy for so many people and their suffering is important too. Towing a priceless diamond into the ocean as the dramatic geyser is more than a just Rose moment. It's worth considering the impact of what she does and showing that on-screen patches the case for a Titanic original ending with Thea alternate ending. Cameron into charm and more message into the final beat. The effect of the dialogues is basically him waking him finger at the audience. Rosia goes and on about she made it to this stage in the live with how to call did it without included the money she could effect of the dialogues so basically him bringing him finger at the audience. Rose goes and on about how she made it to this second life outfit called did it without included in the money she could have prepared from the ceiling Thea necklace and right before dropping Thea necklace remind Brock you look for Thea treasure in the wrong place Mr. Lovett. Only life is priceless and making each a day take out her Rose is called subtax. Titanic movie ending explaining. The ending of the 1997 film Titanic is an emotional ending and unforgettable climax that has left a lasting impact on the audience around the world. Directed by James Cameron, this epic romance and theatist film tells the story of the ill-fated RMS Titanic, a luxurious passenger ship that famously sank on it the Hamid and Young in 1912 after culling of an iceberg. The film followed the lives of two financial characters, Jack Dawson played by Jack Dawson played by the Leonardo DiCaprio and Rose Bucket played by Kate Winslet as they fall in love amid the chooses and the tragedy of the ship shaking. The ending of the movie is a powerful culmination of their love story, the ship's dragonflight and the impact it has on the characters and their life. The stacking of the Titanic. The ending of the Titanic begins with a ship or target collisions with an ice pack. The ending of Titanic banks with a ship or target collision with an ice pack. The attention that has been building throughout the film researches because the crew and the passenger realize the survivority of the situation. Panic and the choices and show as the people try to aboard lifeboats and find a way to safety. That a show calls the bravery and the selflessness of some characters as well as the selflessness and the despairs of others as the ship slowly but the invincible sink. There is a sense of the impending dawn that tightening show calls the bravery and the selflessness of some characters as well as the selflessness and the deceptions of the other. As the ship slowly but the invincibility sink, there is a sense of impending dawn that hangs over the interior sequence. The audience and the draw into the joy and tear of the passengers and crew also the comfort on Madria throughout the sinking sequence. We follow the two central characters Jacka and the Rose. We are the dyspraxia trying to survive and he returned. The attention and the drama in this part of the film are intense with the audience fearing for their safety and the rooting for their survival. Their love story is put to the ultimate test as the negative the treasures can condition of Thea's shaking ship. One of the most iconic and the heart-watching moment in the Titanic ocean during the ship final moment. Also the ship lateral features and further into the ice water of the North alternate. Jack and Rose find themselves planning to feed the sand of the sheep. Jack tries to find a way for them to see afloat, but they are ultimately faced with the heartbreaking reality that there are no lifeboats left and their chance to survive or swim. The constellations of Jack and the Rose love story. As the Titanic sinks deeper into the ocean, Jack and Rose tuggle for the survival become increasingly deeper. They are not only battling the French water, but also at the CHS and the tumult around them as the ship passengers and crew fight for their own lives. The film captures the immense privilege of the ship Major to continue to play as the ship goes down, ending a humanity beautiful black dog to the unfolding water, but also Charles and the tumult around them as the ship passengers and the crew fight for their own lives. The film captures the immense bravery of the ship museum for the continue to play as the ship goes down, ending a humanity beautiful backdrop to the unfolding a tragedy. Jack and Rose love story is a central themes throughout the film, and as the ship sink their loves is tasted to limit their unfaring community to each other, and the determination to survive together make their relationship one of the most. Jack and Rose love story is a central theme throughout the film, and as the ship sings their love is tasted to limit their unfaring a combination to each other, and their determination to survive together make their relationship one of the most Andrew and the belief accept of the fina in the mindset of the Jack and Rosie lover research at peak as they share a final poignant moment together in the freezing water. Jack sacrificed his life to ensure Rose's safety, encourage her to never let go, and they promise him that she will live a full life. As he scumbered to the cold water, Rose watches in the argue, and the audience is left heartbroken by the loss of thusly beloved characters. This tragic moment is a climation of the film's central theme, which is the idea that love conial time and the circumstance selflessness act of love. This tragic moment is a culmination of the film's central theme, which is the idea that love, which is the idea that love trans time and the circumstance Jack's selfless act of love and the sacrifice is a treatment of the power of their connection, and it is a tear-jacking moment there on deeply with the audience. The resource and the renewal after the ship has completely sunk. We see the survivor left in the frigid waters of the North alternate waiting for after the ship has completely sunk. We see the survivor lived in the frigid water of the North alternate waving of rescue. The film portrays the shipper owner and the divisions of the Titanic shaking with the lifeless bodies floating in the water survive planning to dare as agonizing and the agonizing cries of those still in the water. The rescue sequence is a struggling. It's a moment of the quiet and the reflections at the survivor in cloud rolls are pulled from the water by the RMS Capia. The ship that resembled the Titanic just calls the survivor relief and the graduate. The rescue sequence is a stir contract to the CEH of the ship shaking. It's a moment of the quiet and the combat reflection, and the combat reflection as the survivor included Rose are pulled from the water by the RMS Capria, the ship that the resembled to the Titanic just calls. The survivor relief and the graduate. The survivor relief and the graduated area, the palpable but also in the grief area, also evident as they come to terms with the magnitude of the tragedy. Rosie rescue is a moment of the bittersweet relief as she has survived the sinking but has lost her love of her life. Shay is the intentionally in a stage of shock and the disabled as she is abroad. Rose rescue is a moment of the bittersweet life as she survived the shaking but has lost the love of her life. Shay is initially in a state of shock and the disbelief as she is brought aboard the capture. Her journey from near death to a safety is a powerful depression of the resilience of human spirit in the fascia of tragedy. Rose promise and new beginning as Rose is the brought about at the capture. She is the WN a warm blank and the surrounded by concerted passengers and pew the shock of the deal and the loss of Jack feet heavily on her, and she is in a taste and she process what has happened. The rescue sequence in a moment of the reflections and coveria as Rose and the other survivor being to come to terms with the tragedy. Rosia promised to Jack, which she made as Thea stumbled to the ice water become a central point of the film ending. She want to life a full life and make the most of the Rose promised to Jack, which she made as the stumbled to the ice water become a central point of the film ending. She wants to life a full life and make the most of the second chance she has been given. This promise serve as a powerful message about the relation of the human spirit and the importance of the driving life to the fullest. The film ending also revisit the heart of the ocean necklace, a valuable and the symbolic piece. A valuable and the symbolic piece of jewelry that has been a rescue movie throughout the story. The necklace which was the source of the conflict and Rose promised to Jack, which she made as the sucked to ice water become a central point of the film ending. She woke to life a full life and make the most of the second chance she has been given. This promise serve as a powerful message about the realizing a life to the fullest. The film ending also revisit the heart of the oceana necklace, a valuable and symbolic piece of jewelry that has been a recurring modify throughout the story. The necklace which was the source of the conflict and the teaser. The film ending also revisit the heart of the ocean necklace, a valuable and the symbolic piece of jewelry that has been a rising modified throughout the story. The necklace which was the source of the conflict in the desert earlier in the film takes on a new significance as Ida is a discover on Rose. It become a symbol of her survive and a link to her past in a point moment. Rose is asked if she the value of the necklace and Thea response the price of life is more valuable than any treasure. The statement is able that the film centrala in a point moment. Roses they ask if she the valuable of the necklace and she responds the price of life is more valuable than any treasure. The statement and skable that film central theme which is the idea that love and the human experience and more precious than the material wealth. The final scene, the tightening final scene, is a movie and the pomegranate moment that brings the story full circle. It return to the present setting Faye and the elder Rose issue about the research vessel clad which is the Titanic is a final scenes in a moving and poignant moment. The brights the story full circle. It returns to the present day setting where in the elder Rose issue about the research visual show is the exploring the wage of the Titanic of the ocean floor. The scene and the calendar serve as a framing device for the interior their film with the modern day characters providing a connection to the past. The final scene also features as a penalty between Rosia and Jack as they wish him on the restoria grand sacrifice of the Titanic. These a dreamlike encounter is up. The final scene also features a pomegranate trio between Rose and Jack as she animation him on the restore grand situation of the Titanic. This the dream Milkina cover is a reception of her spiritual renew with the Jack who presents it the shaking itself as a powerful and emotional conclusion to their love story and passing the idea that love can transit a time and the morality. This film ends with a scene of the closer and the Rella Ocean. The film ends with the scenes of the closer and the resolution as Rosie now and the elderly woman peacefully edify into in real sleep. The final shot of the film show the camera pinning now and the elder. The film ends with a scene of the closer and the resolution as the Rose now a woman peacefully drafts into a interior sleep. The final shoot of the film show the camera panning over a collection of the photographs and the moments in the Rosia cabin highlighting the rich life she living in the fulfillment of her promise to Jack. The audience is left with the scenes of the situations knowing that Rose honored her community to life. High commitment to live life to the fullest. Titanic ending explaining what happened to Rose at the end. Original alternative version. The Titanic ending dies up nearly 1955 means a 195 means of the runtime in a sci-fi and emotional final. Titanic is a heretical romance based on the real-life tragedy of the RMS Titanic. The movie jumps between the romance of Jack and the Rosia and the contemporary search and the contemporary search for the ship by research teams with help of an elder Rose. This is the seventh film by James Cameron and was at the time the highest crossing movie of all time, earning $1.843 billion. Box Office Mojo. It was only a surprised in 2009 by the Cameron Awaiter which they earned $2.923 billion. Box Office Mojo. What happened in the Titanic ending? The framing narrative of the Titanic is the Rosina of the present day. She has been asked by the scientists abroad the research visa mastiffs to resound her experience on the Titanic. The ship captain Baraka Levitt has been obsessed with the finding of the heart of the ocean and the invaluable diamond necklace necklace at weary present lost in the shaking, and Ancia belonged to the Rose Titanic, and the Rosia finish her story and the crew accepting that the jewel too will never he be fine. However, Rose still as the heart of the ocean. Rose tosses the necklace into the ocean, realizing her last hold on Thea target pet life-changing Virgo, and Thea symbolic giving her heart to the Jack. The Titanic ending show Rose in the beta as the camera pans over pictures of her adventure over the years, reeling that they fulfilled a promise to Jack to Letta and the extraordinary life in her dreams. Rose finds herself on the grandest aquarius of the Titanic, surrounded by everyone who died included Jack, who turns to face her. How did Rose end up with the heart of the ocean? The heart of the ocean in an incredibly expensive larger diamond necklace that the Kalahogly Billies ends giving Rose at the shoulder of the vow at the first may seems like a kindly gesture, but the more it is show about call, the more apparent is it that the necklace symbols that the over hippo pharaohs when it glazed. Rose chooses Jacka over him. Call is the single mind in Thea bruising the necklace, it become a symbol of his loss of the control over his financia, and to Rose it's the become as a symbol of her freedom and the love for Jack. During the final moment of the board is sinking is a Titanic ending. Kaha convinces Rose to leave Jack behind and did the board a lifeboard. He wipes her in his court, which he during the final moment of the board shaking and the Titanic ending. Carl convinces Ross to leave the Jack behind and the board a lifeboat he in his cart, which he placed the necklace in. When she leaves the lifeboard for Jack, she takes the corda and necklace with her. Rose hold on Thea's previous gem because she chooses Jacka over Call, and Call sees both his fiancé and the necklace because he unappeared bought their worth. How did Jack die? Jack and Rose are left in Thea freezing north alternate water. At the end of the Titanic, they find a floating toy and attempts to climb on Thea together, but they accompanied with too heavy for the debut. Jack tells Rose to get on the door while the staying floating in the water. He convinces her he will be alright and not to say goodbye because he wants Rose to grow old, have adventure and have children. Jack dies from the Hamporio hanging another door, and Rose must decide whether to call for help and to stay freezer with the jacket that in the end show how to tragedy affected many stories. Even the storybook once after a moment of Thea hesitations, Rose straightfully pushes Jack off the tour and he watches him slowly sinks down. Jack last lands in the Titanic show him continue to push Rose to not only survive but truly life for life. How she won't know in a way he saw for why possible on this trip. It's heartbreaking watching him sink below the surface, but that is necessary for the movie The Titanic show hand of the people trapped in Thera flood climbs and the ding in the oceana. Jack that and the end show how Thea tragedy affected many stories, even Thea's storybook one. How did Rose survive on Sea Road decide to keep living and not give a lab? She forced to swim across the icy water to G and a fistle. She desperately tries to get the attention of the search of Pretty and her whistling evently doors. Rose and the others survive are Thea brought to the RMS capture safe at last. At the door there a moment where Rosia does not want to leave Jack. She did rather freeze to death than to let him go. Jack words come back to Rose Todd at the end of Titanic, and she remember Hera promise to life a full life, which I saw what ultimately drags her through Hera water to call for help. What happened to a call? Hockey. A call is an unpleasant characters in the Titanic. He tries to kill Pack and then Rose. He is the disgrace to those he thinking he's better than. He tries to bribe his way onto a life pot, and he abdicates a child to sneak on. Many does not f the end of the Titanic seem to see a call to die, but they survive, and he even seems midly ashamed of his action after V. Cole took his own life after the call. Cole took his own life after the walk did crash. Rosia never sees her ex-fiancé again, but to learn Cole take his own life after the false date crash. It's a bundle end for a man who did not end up meaning in anything close to her. Rose never saw her ex-fiancé again, but Lan called his own life after the Fox did crash. It's a bundle end for a man who did not end up meaning anything close to what Rose throw out he would have been to her. Rose never forget about Jack. Colia took his own life after the Fox did crash. Rose never sees his ex-fiancé again, but learns Cole took his own life after their walls did crash. It's a bundle, and for a man who did not end up meaning anything to close the word Rosia throughout, he would end up being to her. Rose never forget about Jack. It mania seems like Rose end up forgetting about a Jack. She has a family with a different a man has lived a fulfilled life and seems a connected between Rose and C News. The report of the Titanic discovery Ida almost appeared like it. She the first time she thought about that experience in years. But that does not mean she has a forgetting Jack. The life she and Thea experience she allowed herself to have been all because of Jack and what he made her promise before he died. At the end of Titanic, Ross kept the heart of the ocean, all those here as part of her page to him. Titanic ending originally had a very different concept, and Thea slightly alternate how the movie could be understood. The scenes was the first introduced to fans on the 10 years anniversary special editing DVD when Anna Other Rose goes to the be added to Toasta the heart of the ocean into the waves. The alternate ending beings Brock handed the Rose granddaughter lazy clapped. See old Rose and the crush over to stop. Sees old Rose and crusher over to stop her from tossing away the diamond. Brokia backs not to do throw it over, but Rosia reminding him that she could have sold the necklace, but then she will in a way be accepting assistant from the call. She brought backs Rosia not to throw it over, but Rose remind him that she could have sold the necklace, but then she won't in a way accepting assistant from a call. She tells Brokia only life is a previous and allow him to hold the necklace in his hand before towing it away and the treasure hunter love. While the alternate ending would have been a way to trip up Brock's Daria more tightly, it also would have shifted the force of the end of the Titanic to Brock rather than Rose. Then alternate make the story for more about the Brock coming to the return with the alternate ending would have been a way to trip up Brock's story more tightly. Ida also would have shifted the focus of the ending of the Titanic to Brock rather than Ross. The alternate make the story more about Pro coming to written with her option with the finding the necklace and the discovering something more important. That's a final lesson from the Titanic, but the meaning focus and theme of the end need to be on Rose and however her experience changed her. The real meaning of the Titanic ending. A Titanic is a true blockbuster epic theory or not small lesson for the mysterious to be under revealed. The Titanic ending is a swiping final of the journey. The characters Primly Rose have been a rosy attempts to her life on the Titanic because she feels so trapped by her impending marriage, familiar duties and a life as the journal jackals her out of the journey. Show Rose that there is more of life than the comforting to Wada is accepted in the doing what she thinks she ought to go. Rose does what she wants to do for the commish to survive at the end of Titanic. Rose earned a fulfilling life filled with everything as she promised Jack. The shaking of the Titanic mommy and for her coverage to survive at the end of Titanic. Rose are now a fulfilling life filled with the everything she promised Jack. The shaking of the Titanic was a miserably tragedy, but Rose's life afterward show what there can be hope even after an event like that. Rose throwing away the heart of the ocean is not her giving up. Jack is wrote a knowledge she accepting but she and he had dreamed of and recognized she did it for them both. How the Titanic ending was received. The Titanic ending has viewers questioned at the movie final story. One theory said that wrote in the end and she returned with the passenger included Jack who died when the ship shack in a Reading. A third history 30 wrote I think Rose Heavy died in the ending and she met all the dead passengers in heaven. The scene would just for the passengers who died on that night, which made the think Ita was really heaven. I know James Cameron set it up to us audience to conclude but I think most of us will agree Rosie tired from her sleep. This leads to many people who feel this was the best possible explanation for the Titanic ending, or Bergen Queen B wrote she share her story so she could cope. These led to many people who feel this was the best possible explanation for the Titanic ending. She shared her story so she could go pee at the residing side of the Titanic again and maybe subconsing an end to her life and the cactus. Weena reviewing the life. Critic Roger Alberto admit that epic film often have problema with their ending. He said the Titanic ending backward that I found myself convinced by the both. When reviewing the film, criticized Rother Albert admitted that epic film often had problem with their ending. He said the Titanic ending a bucket that trend and the V. I found myself convinced by both the story and the saying. The step of the love story is a fair routine, but the pay of how and everyone views as the sheep is Thea shaking is the wordfully written as Thea passenger are forced to make impossibly a choose to make impossibly chooses. Even at the villain play by Zan reveal a humana element at the crucial moment deposit a everything diamond. It's all just love ya the grief. They still adapt you on Thea Jack death. Fans still claim that Thea Jack could have and maybe should have ya lived at the end of Titanic, of course. This would have renewed Rose's story and the film would have had a very different meaning. With that said, the interior idea is that people feel Jack and Rosia could have. Fans still claim that Thea Jack could have and maybe should have life via at the end of the Titanic, of course. This would have renewed Rose's story and the film would have had a very different meaning. With the said the interior ideas that people feel Jack and Rosia could have the Swedish on that on endo father rapper so they both could have life. This was even mentioned in other movies and the TV show as a joke included some with characters debut why Joe could not have life if he wanted. So however no less than James Cameron said that Rose and Jack would not have survived in the freezing water together. Cameron even brought in the some scientists to explanation these we have done up. However no less than James Cameron see that the Rose and the Jack would not have survived in their freezing water together. Cameron even brought in some scientific to Thea explain this. We have done some scientific study to put this full thing to rest and the drive for a stake throughout is hard once for all Cameron save. We are the today's show. We'd got two street people who are the same body mass of the caddy and lay and the boy puts since they're all over them and inside them and we put them in ice water and we tasted to see whatever they could have survived through worthy of them is and the answer was there was no way they both could have survived only one could survive. Cameron also said it still to save the decision because the film is about death and this preacher he had to die. It's called art things happen for the article reason not for physical reason. Cameron also said it is silly to have this decision because the film is about a death and the spiritual he had to die. It's called art. Things happen for the article reason not for physical reason and he lee the end of the film would have been meaningless. While this may never slice debut, Salmon seems to be satisfied with the explanation and Thea scenes. He is the man who directed Titanic also hold more weight than Thea most of the Titanic 1997 review of Titanic directed by James Cameron. Ida took two very specific event for me to finally sit down and rewatch the 1997 Titanic movie. First, I choose to eternize myself by watching the young Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he plays Fada super drink young host Francis that the hygiene absinish. That movie quickly turned into gay heretic which I did know to know the full except of the until I was it too deep into it. The second event that finally kicked my ass into watching the movie was the visiting the Titanic Museum as ever outside of the knowledge field superstar that the world's largest Titanic Museum is the tourist trap. Buta as I was surrounded by the screaming kids who did not care about the historia and felt the ice cold water that was the exact temperature of ocean. I felt inspired so and soon as I got home literally the night of the I watched this movie until midnight and there were things that I remember and things I did not. Anywho let's go into the review content. I imagine most people have seen the Titanic movie except for my parents. We had to explain to my father but the Titanic was the halfway through the museum because he had no idea what he was looking at halfway throughout he finally realized and went did the boat to go underground and fada why all is my father. Anyways, I imagine if you valuable know anything about a movie culture, you know the guest of the movie epic domain romance. At the end of the day the acting of the making a film about a tragedy especially when it'll become occur classes like this it kinda of create this alternate reality especially in the area where all the remitting survive have passed anyway there are few people who remember the story of the Titanic and the people are not it so having this be the responsibility of them kind of the starting me wrong especially when the film largely depicted the upper class once for largely a survival many third class passengers like the Jack period many never made up had to the Jack even I think end of the day my point is to remember that this is the functionalize remember the story of the Titanic and the people on it so having this to be the representation of them kind of the strike me wrong especially when the film largely depict the upper class the ones will largely survive many third class passengers like Jack patient many never made it up to the desk even I think at the end of the day, My point is to remember that this is the function of idealizing real events to proper a narrative for Titanic is my favorite movie. There I said it years ago. I went in on a date and the guys asked me what my favorite movie was. A simply question, but I summarize a simply question, but I steam it forward. Don't your profits so that you love movie a quiet. I did not want to reveal the truth nor to swing at last, so I hid behind the criticized collection last o starter repa etc. Then a scene flashing on my head, a swell of music and the Rosia that you can be blessed about some things rose but not about Titanic. A woman's head is a devotion for my security. My secret is that I love Titanic. This has been true since I was 10 years old in a darkened theatre weeping uncriable on my mother's lap, like the children on screen weaving a farewell to the demand streamer. I survive at the grand of the what was passing before my eyes, a sweeping point, a history lesson and a devastating romance between a woman's heart is a deep ocean of the secret. My secret is that I love Titanic. This has been true since I was 10 years old in a dark theater weeping uncontrollably on my mother lap like the children on screen waving forward to the demand steamer. I marveled at the granddaughter of what was pacing before my eyes, a sweeping history lesson and a devastating romance between a first-class passenger named Rose, dreamboard named Jack, until then my culture died had consider of Thea Rogers and the Henry Stand and Thea Destiny Cannon. Titanic reporter tragic real was an awakening in just over 3 hours. The film colored all my naughtiness of the grow-up life. Love lost the familiar struggle, the unbreakable bond of a starting correct to my children mind. Titanic forced the impossible face, idle filled as the throw. The movie encompassed the interior the movie encomposed the interior my stress ring of human life. It was the uniqueable the most powerful experience I did ever had with a work of art. But I was 10, I could not fully understand this feeling of the I could not fully understand this feeling of the transcendence tense, so I just kept rewatching. I was the movie that time when it was released in 1997. The following years when it came out on VSA off for a break of a box set nearly a split into two cats of the happy and the sad. I routinely pop in the pre-ice bog tape of Enjoy with my after-school snack. I begin flexing on unlikely features of the film, delighting in Ida the actually characters banger dialogue. Yes, the clueless garbage fahia is he passengers the party of the bride take her to see Mr. Mordaunt. Let's stretch her legs. The snowberry of Rosie and mother. Will the life ports? He said Ida according to. Will the life be seated according to glass? I hope they are not too crowded. As I matured, I stopped my irregular viewing, but the movie continued playing in my mind. I was a mellow-ignorant girl myself, and Rose perfectly arched my at her in view, and Rose perfectly articulated my den. The same narrow people, the same mindless characters, even the face of more complex idea and the challenges like the travel of gender, political or problem of class. I found myself learning on the casual wisdom and the glossy sentimentally the film unstable gender commentary began to feel relations. Of course, it's unfair that Jill Matcher says while transiting the strainer of the daughter crossed we area woman in the late 90s everyone I know about Titanic, but I felt in my heart that my own love affair with it was something snazzle learning a casual wisdom and the glossy sentimentally the film unstable gender commentary began to feel levations of course it's unfair that geometry says while tightening the strength of here a daughter cross we are women in the last 90s everyone I knew at Rod Titanic but I felt in my heart that my own love affair with it was something special. Ida was uniquely the decide worth of the large nights, the decides worth of the late night jokes and the reservations hot takes. However, housed my feeling of the affection in deep shame. Just last month, the iceberg that the single Titanic appear in a bite on the Saturday Night Live's laping. Why are people staying talking about this? The older I grew, the more my entering ambitions felt like some sort of scateral error in my toe decide worth of late night jokes and the renovation hot takes. However, high-seated in my feeling of the affections in deep shame, just last month I swear that the shunk the Titanic appear in a bit and the Saturday Night Live monitoring. Why are people talking about this? The older I grew, the more my entering ambition felt like some sort of the clear error in my development. A box I had to accidentally check on my application to adulthood. I took myself it was just a security pleaser. How could it be anything else? Seeing Titanic is my favorite movie would be like seeing my favorite painting in the Mona Lisa. It's just a lick of the discrim. But for me the movie bends is a kind of the point but Sankey citizens don't appears is that the movie is a mess because it is a masterpiece. The film has become a culture shorthand a way of taking about but for me the movie broada is the kind of the point what Sankey citizens don't appear is that the movie is a meme because it is a masterpiece. Yeah, the film has become culture shorthand a way of talking about ideas that area bigger than their sleeve matting a themes of the herbs love and the tragedy while also making a joke has any linear capture a collective if Korean media more than the whole cast. It has been 84 years. It also won 11 Oscar this past journey. I decide for the first time in I decide to watch the movie from the start to finish when I was young in my type went yes years I realized I was dazzled by the film special and yes watching again feel for it in all the old ways jacket good looks rose handwritten walking a suit, the aura of a real pretty but also the camera painted over the sleeping elder Rose. I broke into a soap sending Thea pictures of the post-Titanic life. Thea past January I decide for the first time in a decide to watch the movie for Thea start to finish when I was young in my type 1. Yes, I was tilted by the film special and yes watching again I feel for it and I feel for it all the old days Jack good looks Rosie adverting walking suit the order of a real party but as the camera panned over the sleeping elderly Rose I broke into a soap seeing the picture of her post-Titanic life riding horse on the beach climbing on a flying machine dress in a airhead cone simply posing in inanely air heat consumptively posing and unposing in an on-stage glamour shoot after a year of the great loss. The thoughts of the moment hit me differently. Never mend her heart, her life went on. He survived just and they end up living a life so fully that the experience become just a memory. It was the message in a bottle Ia needed. One of many that Titanic for Sia has sent my way over the years. I imagine I will be receiving this message forever. After years of a great loss, the pathetic of the moment hit me differently. Never mind yet. Never mend her heart, her life went on. She survived a disaster and I end up living a life to full that the experience become just a memory. It was the message in a bottle I needed. One of many that a Titanic has sent my way over the years. I imagine I will be receiving these a message forever, even as an old lady, warm in her pad. Titanic 1997 of 25 anniversary review of the epic romance movie. We are going to back at Titanic. It's been 25 years and we can still remember the magical experience of seeing it in the theaters 25 years ago. Seeking ship. It's the perfect equation it does know to eat. Watching this as a much older person who know where to many Titanic effects it's one of my favorite guilty pleasure a period of history where a tragedy was a entertainment made fiery for Hollywood. It was the interesting particularly to compare and the contracted the historical accuracy of the film having take a costume in the film history class that they taught me basic of the costume for the area in which this film was the replanting the costume a trend to secret towards moderate accurate. My professor of that class actually did this weekend awesome video about it I am in love with by Professor you all she's so cool looking at the historical adaptations of the film line as of the liner itself it was a perfect example of the time and the society Thea Rose herself lived it there was the last stage guilty at captions awesome video about it I am in love with my professor you all she's so cool looking at the historical adaptations of the liner itself it was a perfect example of the time and the society the Rose herself lived in. This was the last stage guild adaptation so larger the wealthy society as Rosia wants. As Rose falls from the upper editor of the society, he grows slowly begins to lessen as they continue seeing Jack on the ship showing how she feels she's becoming fair in these patients. However, outside of the stunning visual and the historical adaptations of the Titanic and the Guilty Aid Society, I find that this film really lacks some things. It rely way too much on the do romance and the tragedy itself to propel the plot forward. It convencation that this Isa happened to be the Titanic and I can see why someone survived refused to see the film in a way it can be seen nor recognize the tragedy short. The letting a man's eyes but now many only association this truly tragic even with it the romance I will say through I cared was the last scene of the movie I did not think it was for the actual character characters in moving to be the things that I will say through I carried as watch the last scene of this film. I did not think it was for the actual characters in movie to me to think about how this was such a real moment that many people died in these actual. Some may say that it was. I will say though I carried as watched the last scene of this movie, I did not think Ida was for the actual characters. It's a moving to me to think about how this was such a real moment that many people died in this accident. Some may see that Ida was the lack of the Bannock or member who had the key was dismayed right before the sleep dismkable people leaving the entry no out without a method for long distance scenes spotting. Others may say crew negligence, but at the end of the day this film he emulates it for many people that may causes an the association that may be damaging. It's a solid movie if you want entertainment and enjoy romance and or sad film. I just wonder the beloved star-crossing romance and the disaster film Titanic premiere in the white relief on the December premiere. The white release on 19th December 1997 and the word of movie was never the same. Love it or hate it. You have probably seen it perhaps more than on Sia or Twist or the well you get the pictures. In this story, Titanic tells the story of Rose David Beckford, a 17-years-old upper-class young woman who falls in love with Jack Dawson, a poor struggling artist. Unfortunately, they also fall in love on the Titanic, the to F to sink. Titanic tells the story of Rosie David Beckett, a stiffened years-old glass young woman who falls in love with the Jack Dawson, a poor struggling article. Unfortunately, they also fall in love on the Titanic. The dome ship fade to sink. Beyond that, the script waves historical figures in and out with the ace, creating the perfect historical affection narrative. For many years, Titanic remained the #1 best-selling film of all time, only for director James Cameron to be at this on record with the waiter. Today, even with the continued rise of the ticket sales and unstoppable superhero film, it continue to slay at the #3 say what you will about this movie. James Cameron know how to appeal to an audience with the Titanic. The film beeping quality appear to everybody, not just a niche crowd. Don't care for the romance. Many watch the movie for the visual effect and the Titanic distress. However, it's hard to point anyone the reason behind the film's success. Instead, many incredible of the historical drama led to the perfect recipe for the success. James Cameron's screenplay cleverly used all storytelling technique and the familiar. However, it's hard to point to any one reason behind the film's success. Instead, many incredible of the historical drama led many ingredients of the historical drama led to the perfect recipe for success. James Cameron's screenplay cleverly used old-fashioned storytelling technique and the familiar authority to quickly contact the audience to the story and the characters with the universal themes. Beyond that, the star-crossed romance of the rich girl and the poor boy, aka romance and Thea Julia on the Titanic, had universe appeal. Not to mention the unhittable chemistry between Kat Vistula and the Leonardo DiCaprio as Rose and Thea Jack. Plus, there were the groundbreaking visual effect, the beautiful costumes, the gorgeous hunting musical score, and the original theme song, My Heart Will Go On My Clinic Dion. Sure, the song become overplay. But if you objectively listen to it, the music is actually beautiful. On top of all that, the acting is top notch with the characters you quickly love and root for, with the perfect blend of romance, humor, tragedy, and the suspense. Titanic has you on the edge of your seat from the start to finish. Titanic 1997 review. The epic romance movie stand the test of time. Like older Rose looking back to the Titanic, I look back to the first I saw what the film as a young girl filled with the glacier stream and the idolizing with a personality much like Rose. It was the perfect time to see the movie Titanic. You look back to the first time I saw the movie as a young girl look with the Elysian dreams and the idealized with a personality must be like Rose. It was the perfect time to see the movie. And Dia did not just see it, and I did not just see it once or twice. I saw it 7 times in the theater. Some things about the film appeal to my younger self, and on a rewatch of the story all 30 years later, the movie still has that magic appeal too. So really fond a movie today. For the story to the epic romance to the music visual customize and more, Titanic does not make a fail a step. Sure, not everyone loved this movie, but many of us do, as by its continued success all these years later. Overall, you can't help but to love Titanic. Sure, yeah, there are a couple of cheesy scenes and Lou calls out the Rose a few more time than the necessary, but who cares? James Cameron capture a sweeping magical epic that the thugs at the heart stings you a love. Carrie, hold your breath in the suspense and the star all over again from award-worthy performance that the turn the lead actors into on find. Movie a star to hunting visual of the RMS Titanic. James Cameron passion projected continue to soar, and overall it's a timeless sibling tale that they joy in again and again. Content not PG-34, the sincerity, brief nudity and the impact overlooking scenes, some laugh and a few more intense sequence. Where to watch? You can stream Titanic on Plot TV, also written and the buy on the digital and or buy the digital and the DVD. Did you love hit Titanic? How many times have you seen Ina in the theaters? Do you have a favorite tab moment? Let me know in the comments. The Titanic film review was the first public as a Titanic 20th anniversary review in 2017 and has been updated for the 25th anniversary in 2022. Not only is the Titanic one of the great example of movie magic at work, but Ida also one of the most put down film in the recent years. James Cameron a masterpiece is a blind off good acting, a storytelling, and the spatula special effect is also super on the human level. It's one of the most thrilling experience I have had at the movie. I would like to roll out right now a common myth about Titanic is not predictable. For those of you who have not seen, let me ask you, how does the movie end? If you see that the Titanic sink at the end, you are surely mistaken. Symbolic. It does quite the opposite. It is even remotely possible that one can predict upstating this ticket by the lock handed to pocket. What about what David did with the Jack successfully wins over most of the party? The dance with the scenes in which Jack and the Rose dance in the third class section. This could take forever. I suppose there are certain aspects of the movie that we can see coming. Jack and the Rose fall in love. Climbing Rose's fiance is going to have a seriously problem with this. Perhaps the fate of the certain characters area, obviously perhaps not. In any case, none of this matters. The simplicity of the story itself. It was important. Titanic is a love story that is set against the backdrop of the seeking it, not about the true life events, or not does it or not it does evil claim to be. This is not a film version of Waterloo Night to remember. This is already a film based on that. Cameron was not opening for a remark. We learned a bit about Jack D. He from the Western but has been on his own for the A. Now he also a freelance. He also a freelance artist making his living by the traveling and the working from the place to place. After the first night on board and the after being fed up pulls her back up. The act of kindness is what incredible their friendship. They will eventually fall in love, and the jams. Cameron visibly a contract on these two. In this story is at the heart of the film. From the beginning we are trained to special side of the sleep. The models and the special effect are the interior. Convincia, however, for the first half of the film, Cameron connected on the relationship between the Jack and the Rose. Cameron understand that though without the human element his film would be just an author special effect extra average like Independence Day. All of his film observe the people at the center of his effect. The special effects survive. The story does not serve the special effect. I went into the Titanic with the tradition is being held as one of the best love story deposited on film cycle as I am. I did not think much of movie with a romantic theme to them. However, I was curious to see the special the direct James Cameron had the credit. Fortunately for me, Titanic is not only a time of action effect and the visual, but also previously excellently a commentary on the issue of the class struggle. Jack Den is a young boy wooing's passage to America about the Titanic is a lucky game of poker. Jack tells to his friend that they are luckiest son of the beach in the world. Rose deep a water bucket Cape Vessel is he traveling to America to unmarried to call Hockley a situation she's not thriller about a spark fly when division managed to talk a Roz out of the jumping overboard Outjo whereas the unsneakable sheet heat and the iceberg and the being too folded and the being too flinted to the audience as a flashback. The narrative is Rose 101 years old with the last name and she felt the story to a prisoner hunter Trevisa looking for the female hair of the question is a diamond that was given to a Rose by fiancé Hockley. The reaction of the ship Boda the Exhibia, the reading for which was done using digital alpha processor running legs and the interior are the impactable. The dialogues is righty and the brilliant. The movie is slow at the time but research if the climb is one of the shipings to sink. The fact that a Cameron takes his time in the telling of the story make it all the more stance. Cameron could help his clip in any of these areas. Dialogues, cinematography, a fact, authentic and still come out with a great movie, but he does not. He stick it to the formula that has worked in other great epic movie and he pulls it off the 100%. This ship was the thought to be the unslikeable. This ship was thrown out to be unsubly and so a compromise made on the number of the life ports aboard. When the ship did sink, it is the richest that go first to purity for the life ports. While the AIA waited in the half-full life force, the AIA were exposed to the citizen of the people freezing to their death and did not do things to them fell. If a similar a tragedy were to happen today, would the result be any different? Movie is slow at times but it reset its climb when the ship begins to sink. The fact that a Cameron take his time to telling the story make it all more tense. Cameron could have skipped in any of these area dialogues and cinematography effects are authentic and still come out with a great movie, but he does not. He sticks it to formula that has worked in other great epic movie and he pulls it off 100%. The ship was the throne to be honorable and so a compromise was made in the number of the life port aboard. When the ship did sink, it is the researcher that the good first purity on the life ports while they waited in the half-life pont. They were exposed to the cries of the people freezing to their death and it did not do anything to help them. If a similar tragedy were to happen today, would the result be any different? The action is the accident by all consider. I was most impressed by Zini. The 90 things about a ship sinking is that I see relatively slow events and the Camerona and the Cameron takes every adventure of it. Redemption of the mighty sleep going under is so much larger than life and you feel this in the most magnification part of the movie just for the reason alone. Titanic is a movie not just to be seen but to be experienced. So make sure you see it on the big screen. It goes to show that the concept of the dist movie is far from dead. Titanic movie citizen a trend on James Cameron. When it was released 25 years ago, James Cameron Titanic was the income. It made star of its two lads DiCaprio and the Katie Wine review overing happy price not only the technical fact of the film but also the acting and the storyline. In 1997, Titaning in 1997. Titanic was in that fate quite learned from the film King of the World. At the time, we were all speed up in the romantic trail of the Jack and Rose David Bucket that the star-crossed love was the inflations on the dome ship ended when the Jack at the time we were all a spat in the romantic all sweat up in the romantic tale of the Jack D and the Rosia David Bucker. The star-crossed love revoa and revelation of the diamond sheep added with the Jack made the ultimately a sacrifice freezing in the ice alternate to save his truly beloved. But over the years citizens and the audience alike have examined the film and the found like the ship itself. It is the bite of the work it is was originally released at a small number of the when it was originally released a small number of the citizen deeply disliked Titanic. Today more and the more people area realizations their originally positive response to the film and today more and more people are realization their originally positive response to the film and the changing their opinion for their characters to the story to the ending. There are a number of the issue with the Titanic that appeared to questionable at the beat and the deeply unsettling Oderosada even gone for the nervia that some criticize are calling it the Rose film but they may be taking it to a fall and unhealthy obsessions. At the beginning of the film we find Empress Rosia being forced into marry with the Calla Huckley by her wisdom mother Ruth to save the family 14 and keep their state in society so unhappy with her situation. Rose decide to jump from the sheep. She is recently by the Palacia driver Jack, so being the plot of the film is the pair constantly run and Thea hide from the authority to be theory together. Jack's relentless pursuit of Thea Rose around the ship is the obvious. We learn virtually nothing about the characters of the deck. We learned virtually nothing about the characters of the Jack apart from his being poor. All per hand artist we want a Rose and we will go. Jack's relentless press of Thea Rose around the ship is the obvious. We learn virtually nothing about the characters of the Jack apart from him being a poor all-wrapped artist. He wanted a Rose and he will do anything to have her even though they have only know each other for a few days in this healthy relationship. Rose in 17th July years old then the possibility to Thea experience to identify to a stalker and the manipulator influenced by Jake. Rosia turned against her mother, fiancé A tilde copyright and pretty much everyone else in her life. And how could she not? On board the Titanic, almost every wealthy and Thea upper class person is the portrait as a villain. While the people in third class or the stranger are shown as a salto fa the earth, the side and the vice Rosia fiancé is at Rose fiancé is at every turn. Just a mean clothes man who cares nothing for the Rose or for anyone but himself. The officer on board discriminate against the stranger passengers ensuring only the well-to-do board the lifeport's just one of the many historical incredible all of the upper class characters we meet on the Titanic get literally screen time apart from when they are being discovered crawling on the Malaysia disclaimer lacking meaningful emotions. One of the main themes of the film that true love as those on the beyond death also appear overly sentimental and the simplecting in modern times. We understand young teens often like all of upper class characters we meet on the Titanic literally screen time apart from when they are being disclaimer looking meaningful emotions. True love one of the main themes of the film that rude loves go on beyond death also appear overly sentimental and in modern times. We understand young Tina often lack one of the main themes of the film that true love's gone on beyond death also appear overly sentimental and the cutting in modern times. We understand young teen often lack a maturity in a relationship and often mistakeless or the flammation for love with Jack and the Rose relationship have lost Jack and the survive. He was broke with the no visible meanings of the spot. She was 17. Their love affair in a fancy of no responsibility while in aboard with the ship. Where would it have gone in the real world? They direct us to another issue. Rosia survived the shrinking and goes on to marry another May and have a family with children, and they directed us to another issue. Do Rose survived the shrinking and goes on to marry another man Minnie and have a family with the children and the grandchildren. However, when Rose dies at the end of the film her free descent to the work of the ship where she is the required with the love of her life Jack surely Thea is a slave in the face to her decided husband and family. She loved her interior life, yet the film ends with brothers in their affair life with someone she know for a few days. Often criticize a film with a modern sensibility can be unfair, however, Titanic include a fair number of the issue that even consider it with the social more of the timing in which it was made appear problematic. This does not take away from the enjoyment many people have again from the film over the years and its technical brilliance, but it does give increased faith to the citizen who spoke against the film in 1997. Like the ship itself, the film Titanic is the relief of a different time revising. It can make you wonder why you never notice the holes in it. The first place Titanic plot copies. James Cameron 1997 movie budget itself 11 Academy Award included Best Pictures when it released using a combination of fake and the real characters from the Damaisel, Kate Winslet and the Leonardo DiCaprio the fictitious characters on board the Titanic in the romantic historical drama. The story is split between different time periods with the first scene at the heart of the 1996 a research visual being exploring the vehicles of the Titanic led by Brock Lovett and his team. They recover a safe in the hope of it containing a necklace with a large red diamond known as the heart of the ocean. Instead, they find a drawing of a young nude woman. They find a drawing of a young nude woman wearing that very necklace. The sketch is dated 14th of April 1912. The same day the Titanic hit the iceberg rose ring of the crew informing them she the one of the drawing she brought aboard and Thea recall her tell of how she met Jack and the events that led to ship shaking and the events that led to the ship shaking. From here we cut back to 1912 as we see a 17 years old Rose David Duckett board as the HMS Titanic board for the America. But as she says herself, she linked the Titanic to self-cheap talking her away in the China to marry Clint Hockley. When Rose decide to commit a suicide one night and jump off the back of the ship, she ends up when Rosia decide to commit suicide one night and jump off the back of the ship, she ends up briefing Jack Dawson, a poor young artist who won a third-class ticket to the Titanic. It's a po game. Why does Rose writer her mocking not a call after the drawing? As Jack and the girls glue closer together, Rose back Jack in here a statement room and appease him. Thea sketch her nude. Wearing only the heart of the ocean, the time. We were all speed up in the romantic trail of the Jack and Rose David Bucket that the star-crossed love was the inflations on Thea dome ship ended when the Jack at Thea time we were all a spat in the romantic all sweat up in Thea romantic tale of the Jack D and the Rosia David Bucker. The star-crossed love revoa and revelation of the diamond sheep added with the Jack made the ultimately a sacrifice freezing in the ice alternate to save his truly beloved. But over Thea years citizens and the audience alike have examined the film and the found like the ship itself. It is the bite of the work it is was originally released at a small number of the when it was originally released a small number of the citizen deeply disliked Titanic. Today more and the more people area re-elevations their originally positive response to the film and today more and more people are re-elevation their originally positive response to the film and the changing their opinion for their characters to the story to the ending. There are a number of the issue with the Titanic that appeared to questionable at the beat and the deeply unsettling Rosada even gone for the nervia that some criticize are calling it the Rose film but they may be taking it to a fall and unhealthy obsessions. At the beginning of the film we find a Prince Rosia being forced into marry with the Huckley by her wisdom mother Ruth to save the family 14 and keep their state in society so unhappy with her situation. Rose decide to jump from Thea sheep. She is recently by the Palacia driver Jack, so being the plot of Thea film is the pair constantly run and Thea hide from the authority to be theory together. Jack relentless pursuit of Thea Rose around the ship is the obvious. We learn virtually nothing about the characters of the deck. We learned virtually nothing about the characters of the Jack apart from his being poor. All per hand artist we want a Rose and we will go. Jack relentless press of Thea Rose around the ship is the obvious. We learn virtually nothing about the characters of the Jack apart from him being a poor all-wrapped artist. He wanted a Rose and he will do anything to have her even though they have only know each other for a few days in this healthy relationship. Rose in 17th July years old then the possibility to Thea experience to identify to a stalker and the manipulator influenced by Jake. Rosia turned against her mother, fiancé copyright and pretty much everyone else in her life. And how could she not? On board the Titanic, almost every wealthy and the upper class person is the portrait as a villain, while the people in third class or the stranger are shown as a salto the earth. The side and the vice Rosia fiancé is at Rose fiancé is at every turn. Just a mean clothes man who cares nothing for the Rose or for anyone but himself. The officer on board discriminate against the stranger passengers ensuring only the well-to-do board the lifeport's just one of the many historical incredible all of the upper class characters we meet on the Titanic get literally screen time apart from when they are being discovered crawling on the Malaysia disclaimer lacking meaningful emotions. One of the main themes of the film that true love as those on the beyond death also appear overly sentimental and the simplecting in modern times. We understand young teens often like all of upper class characters we meet on the Titanic literally screen time apart from when they area being disclaimer looking meaningful emotions. True love one of the main themes of the film that a rude loves go on beyond death also appear overly sentimental and in modern times. We understand young Tina often lack one of the main themes of the film that true love's gone on beyond death also appear overly sentimental and the cutting in modern times. We understand young teen often lack a maturity in a relationship and often mistakeless or the flammation for love with Jack and the Rose relationship have lost Jack and the survive. He was broke with the no visible meanings of the spot. She was 17. Their love affair in a fancy of no responsibility while in aboard with the ship. Where would it have gone in the real world? They direct us to another issue. Rosia survived the shrinking and goes on to marry another May and have a family with children, and they directed us to another issue. Do Rose survived the shrinking and goes on to marry another man Minnie and have a family with the children and the grandchildren. However, When Rose dies at the end of the film, her free descent to the work of the ship where she is the required with the love of her life Jack surely Thea is a slave in the face to her decided husband and family. She loved her interior life, yet the film ends with brothers in their affair life with Samiania she know for a few days. Often criticize a film with a modern sensibility can be unfair, however, Titanic include a fair number of the issue that even consider it with the social more of the time in which it was made appear problematic. This does not take away from the enjoyment many people have again from the film over the years and its technical brilliance, but it does give increased faith to the citizen who spoke against the film in 1997, like the ship itself. The film Titanic is the relief of a different time revising. It can make you wonder why you never notice the holes in it. The first place Titanic applaud copies. James Cameron 1997 movie budget itself 11 Academy Award included Best Pictures when it released using a combination of fake and the real characters from the Dalmasel, Kate Winslet and the Leonardo DiCaprio the fictitious characters on board the Titanic in the romantic historical drama. The story is split between different time periods with the first scene at the heart of the 1996 a research visual being exploring the vehicles of the Titanic led by Brock Lovett and his team. They recover a safe in the hope of it containing a necklace with a large red diamond known as the heart of the ocean. Instead, they find a drawing of a young nude woman. They find a drawing of a young nude woman wearing that very necklace. The sketch is dated 14th of April 1912. The same day the Titanic hit the iceberg rose ring of the crew informing them she the one of the drawing she brought aboard and Thea recall her tell of how she met Jack and the events that led to ship shaking and the events that led to the ship shaking. From here we cut back to 1912 as we see a 17 years old Rose David Duckett board as the HMS Titanic board for the America. But as she says herself, she linked the Titanic to self-cheap talking her away in the China to marry Clay Hockley. When Rose decide to commit a suicide one night and jump off the back of the ship, she ends up when Rosie decide to commit suicide one night and jump off the back of the ship, she ends up briefing Jack Dawson, a poor young artist who won a third-class ticket to the Titanic. It's a po game. Why does Rose writer her mocking not a call after the drawing? As Jack and the girls glue closer together, Rose back Jack in here a statement room and appease him Thea sketch her nude. Wearing only the heart of the ocean. Wearing only the heart of the Oceana necklace. Something Skull gifted her earlier in the movie. She never particularly like wearing it. Climb. It was bulky and the heavy ironical sibling her own happy heart at the pussy's marriage. After drawing her sketch, Rose leaves the drawing inside the safe alongside the diamond and a not reading darling now you can keep us both locked in. After drawing her sketch, Rose leaves the drawing inside the safe alongside the diamond and not reading darling. Now you can keep us both locked in your safe. This is of course her deplorable way of saying you to call and has a controlling face with the safe serving as a metaphor for Rose's life period to enduring the Titanic. This is of course her deplorable way of saying you to call and his controlling fascia with the safe saving as a metaphor for Rose's life period to entering the Titanic. This is her way of deliberating herself thanks to Jack L. After the pair make love to the one another, they head up on desk and they watch the ship collision with the iceberg overhearing of his decision how serious the situation is. While this is going on, a call returns to find Jack's sketch and Rose is not. He has let Joy slip the heart of the ocean necklace into the Jack and necklace into the Jack throwing him as a thief. Unfortunately unfortunately he confirmed in the master at the arms office down below call Isa there to see Jack of the taking the necklace for herself and hitting Jack for good measure Rhodes heads off and he finds Jack fearing him for his handcuff with an axe. After a couple of the questionable practice sure see them earlier break his bonds, the pair manage to make it back on desk again where Calla catches up with them both. An opportunity for Rose to leave presents itself with the call promising that they will be following soon at their own life pot. They won't of course as the is for Calla only Jack is the decide to see on the ship and they die. Does Call survive? Rose decide at the last minute. In Toa leave and the scramble back abroad. Thea is the last star for the call Warsaw Lovejoy pistol and he chases them in Toa the flooding darling room in the first class. When they disappear out of Thea view call realizing with the better Leah than the Rose has actually been wearing a call the W time the one the heart of Thea ocean inside. Koi decide to hand Sumi a sheep and does so by snatching up a caring child and posing as her connected father. The pair manage to get abroad a life pod and they survive. Kai decide to Ebner sheep and does so by snatching up a caring child and the grossing as her connected father. The pair manage to go abroad a life port and they survive. Although Call does get a couple of Thea dirty looks for the officer on board with time ran out and the ship quickly filling with the water. Jack and Rosa return to the board deck. All the lifeboat are gone and the ship's turn is Thea starting to rise. They disturbingly climb up to the stream trail where they watch Thea infamous fun guy who falls and Thea bounce of the ship propels. The ship breaks in half giving the bear a couple of the previous moment before they both fall into the freezing water together. The Titanic forever lost to the depth of the ocean. In the freezing water, Rosia and Jake are the mentally separated before decide to leave the crowd of fat people scrambling for help. Together, they find a floating door and attempt to survive. Jack and Rose both to try to get on this together, but their combined feedback licit. We actually see them both attempting the scenes. I mean, the AEO could have tried a few times after all, but in the end, Jack is confused to his fat. He makes the decision to sacrifice his own life so Rose can live fears. So in the end Jack holds on to the adage of the door while Rose lying on the high. Now there is the subject of the hypotemia and couple of Thea contents but ignore that. Time passes and Rose is eventually saved by Thea return life pod. As the film researches its climates the survive from Thea Titanic are the saved by the RMS Capturia who rescue the survive. Rose notices called the wandering around trying to find her but she managed to say hidden that's the last we say of the call bomb we learn country of the Rose narration in the present timeline actually commits suicide after losing his fortune in the Wall Street crash of 1929. What happens to Heart of the Ocean in a theatrical release? We all get to Thea alternate scene shortly. Love Code decide to give up searching for the heart of the ocean believing it's a lot of cause. He finally understand the emotional turmoil. This the terrifying accident Heart decide to let the past rest. However, alone on the start that the night Rosia takes out of the heart of the ocean from her pocket. She had it with her Thea whole time. She drops into the sea allowing it to be the loss alongside Thea vehicle. Safe in the knowledge that no one will find it at least no any time. However, alone on the stand at Thea night Rose take at the heart of the ocean from her pocket. She had it with her time. She drops it into the sea, allowing it to be lost alongside Thea wage safe in the knowledge that no Onia will find it at least not anytime soon. Does Rose die at the end or she is Thea dreaming? That night, Rose hands back to her room and is sleepy peacefully. She does pass away in her sleep or is she still alive? It's a subjective he has scenes with the camera and himself giving at this third delivery ambig. The scripto simply taste she is very still and AEO could be sleeping or something else with the familiar music playing. The camera pants across various pictures of Rosina her life. Irony car taking part in all of the different activities she and Thea Jack promise one another they do. From a horse hiding throat to the rising family, Rose has made the most of her life and the heart of the ocean and the sea feels like her final bit of the colors from a very fulfilling life. Not only that, the Jack also promised Rose while they were both freezing outside that she's going to die and the old lady warm in her bed. This only reinforces the idea that Shay is the dead. However, on the other side of the debut, you could argue that Rosia had no pass away. She live a long happy life and is married and with the kids. But instead of researching afterlife with her loving family, she ends up with a man for the change her life back when she was a teenager. Someone she only knew for a weekend. Why would she give us up all that to be in the afterlife with the Jack? We will let you be the judge of which side of the argument you fight on. Given Titanic is a romantic drama throw, "We are movie inclined to say it," said the former as the film closer out. We cut to the Titanic once more as Rose and the Jack return are together at the Grand applied by all those who died on the ship. What happened in the alternate ending? The alternate ending is different, and by different we mean absolutely dreadful. Here the ending is a change to see lazy Rose granddaughter sporting her grandmother climb up on Thea raising. She rushes forward with Thea Brock where Rose tells them not to get any closer. She holds up with the heart of the ocean and the theaters to drop it. "You had that the whole time?" Brock asks incredibly. Rose explains she did think about selling the diamond but could not do it given it made her thinking of the call. Rose done purpose on this trip was to put it the oceana back where it belongs. Brock pleasure with the Rose to let him hold the diamond just once where Rose tells Brock that he look for treasure in the wrong place telling him that life is priceless and they should make each die count. Rose tosses the diamond. Rosia tosses the diamond overboard. Willie Brock's team show up and the fortune ingridly. The same scenes of Thea Dam hitting the water is the use before he get back to Brock and the Rose. Thea former laugh at his team before asking a lazy to dance. Let's be glad this did not make it into the final cut as Thea original is the pretty peach perfect for the messaging. Titanic is my favorite movie. There I said it. Years ago, I went on a date and the guy asked me what my favorite movie was. A simply question, but I stammered. His bra forever. Did not your prophet? His proffer did not your profile say that you love movie quiets? I did not want to reveal the truth. Not so soon. At least so I had behind the Cambrian collection last etc. Then a scene flashed in my head, a swell of music in the embrace ahead. You can be belts about some things Rose, but not about a Titanic. A woman's heart is a deeper portion of this cutie. My secret is that I love Titanic. This has been true since I was 10 years old in a darknet theaters weeping uncontrollable. Only my mother's lap like the children on screen waving a farewell to the dawn streamer I marvita at the granddaughter of what was posing before my eyes a weeping history lesson and a devastating romance between a romance a woman heart is a deep ocean of fast security. My secret is that I love ya Titanic that this has been true since I was 10 years old in a dark age theaters sweeping uncontrollable only my mother's app like ya the children on screen waving for to Theodom. I marveled at the grand of the water was possibly a lesson and a desting romance between first-class passengers named Rose Kitcha Whistle and below the side aboard name of Jack. I mirrored at the grandio of what was passing before my eyes, a sweeping history lesson and a devastating romance between a first-class passengers named Rose and a below-deck determined named Jack. Until then my culture died had the consider of Thea Roger in the Harry Mulsing and Thea Destiny canon. Titanic recapture target a real and awaking in just over 3 hours. The film color all my notice of the grow-up life, love loss the female struggle, then the unbreakable bond of starting a quad to my child mind. Titanic was the impossible vase. It felt as thought through the movie and composed the interior mystery range of human life. Ida was the uniable the most powerful experience I did ever had with a work of the art. But I was 10. I could not fully understand this. The feeling of the transcendence, so I just keep rewatching. I saw the movie 3 times when it was released in the 1997 the following years when it came out in a VHS a fade break of the box set nearly a split into acts of the happy and the sad. I routinely pop in the priest I see a pack tape to the enjoy with the after school snack. I begin placing on the like features of the film delighting in it the isolate collectors bangry dialogues the Lucy's grey beds who I see he is here passengers the portrait of Thea Bride take her to see Mr. Motto let's us stretch her the leg the sobery of Thea Rose mother will the lifeboards be sated according to be setting according to class I hope they are not too crowded as I mature I stop my regular viewing but the movie continue playing in my buta the movie continue playing in my mind I was a melancholy indoor girl myself and a Rose perfectly argue might the teenager envied the same narrow people the Samuel mindless characters even the face of a more complex idea and the challenges like the traveling of the gender politics of the problems of the class. I have found myself learning odds with the casual wisdom and the glossy statement of the film unstable gender commentary I begin to feel the revelations of course is unfair the chilly major seal tightening of the state of her daughter see we are Womina in the late 90s everyone I knew brought a Titanic but I felt in my heart that an love affair with it, landing on the casual wisdom and the glossy sentimental of the film unstable gander community begin of the full televisions. Of course, it's unfair. The chilly matrixessa will lighting the senior of her daughter Weir Woman in the Weir Woman in the late 9s. Everyone I knew abroad Titanic, but I felt in my heart that my own lovey affair with it was something special. 2 dance worth of the late night yoga and the reservation hot takes. However, I have quoted my feeling of the faction in a deep shame. Just last month the iceberg that sank the Titanic appeared in a beta on the Saturday Night Live, lamenting why are people still talking about this? The older I grew, the more my entering animation felt like some sort of clerical error in my to decide worth of the late night jog and the reservation it takes. However, have quoted my feeling of the faction in deep shame just last a month. The iceberg that shrink the Titanic appeared in a bit on the Saturday Night Live, lamenting why area people sting talking about this. The older I grew, the more my entering ABN felt like some sort of declarity error or in my development a box I had accidentally a check on my application to adulthood. I told myself it was just a guilty pleasure. How could it be anything else? Saying Titanic is my favorite movie would be like saying my favorite tab painting in the Mona Lisa is such a lack of the descript. But for me the movie partners is a kind of the point, but Sankey citizens don't appearance is that the movie is the member because it is a masterpiece. The film has become a culture shorthand, a way of taking about it, but for me the movie best is the kind of the point. What shaky citizens don't appear is that the movie is the memesa because it is a masterpiece, because Ida is a masterpiece. The film has become a culture shorthand, a way of the talking about idea that are bigger than the self mythic dams of the horribly lovia and the tragedy, while also making a joke. Has any line capture our collective current mood more than that told casta? It has been 84 years. It also won 11 Oscar the past January. I decide for the first time and I decide to watch the movie from the start to finish. When I was young in my type 1 years I was addled by the film special, and so watching again I fell for it in all the old ways. Jack good looks rose and here awaking suit the altar of the real Parjabat as the camera pen. Ned over the sleeping elder Rose I broke into, so sings a picture of her post-Titanic life. This past January I decide for the first time and I decide to watch the movie from the start to finish. Then I was young in my time 1 years I was dilled by the film special, and yes watching again fell for it in all the old days. Jacket good looks rose and true suit at the all over of real party, but as the camera paned over the sleeping idol Rosia I broke into the soap, seeing the pictures of her post-Titanic life, riding a horse on the beach, climbing onto a flying matching dress in the Almia air cosplay, posing in Aaron said glamorous shoot. After years of the great loss the patho of the moment hit the differently. Never mind her heart, her life went on. She survived it and end up living a life so full that the experience becoming just a memory. It was the message in a bottle I needed, one of many that a Titanic has sent my way over the years. I imagine I will be receiving this message forever. After a year of the great loss, the pathos of the moment hit the differently. Never mind her heart, her life went on. She survived just and ends up living a life so full that the experience become just a memory. It was the message into a bottle I needed. Oh my man, that the Titanic has sent my way over the years. I imagine I will be receiving this message forever, even as imagine I will be receiving this message forever, even as an old lady warm in her bed. 25 years ago, the beloved star gross romance and the dist film Titanic premiere in the wide release on the 19th of December 1997, and the word of the movie was never the same. Love it or hate it, you are probably seen it perhaps more than once or twist or well you get the pictures. Titanic's tell the story of the Rose David Bucket, a 17 years old upper class young woman who falls in love with the Jack Davin, a post-struggling artist. Unfortunately, the also fall in love on the Titanic. The demand she fitted to sing. Titanic's tell the story of the Rose David Billet, a different years old young woman who fall in love with the Dean, a poor struggling artist. Unfortunately, they also fall in love on the Titanic Nedum ship fitted to a sink. Beyond that, the scape waves his figures in the auto with the ASEA, creating the perfect historical faction and narrative. For my many years, Titanic remained the #1's best-line film of all time, only for the director James Cameron to beat his own recorded with Better Today. Even the continued rise of the ticket sales and the Unstoppably Heroes film is the continued to slay ad. Say what you will about his movie, James Cameron know how to appeal to any audience. With the Titanic, the film epic sweeping a quality appeal to the everybody, not just a nice crowd don't care for the romance. Many watches the movie for the visual effect and the Titanic to stir. However, I'd hard to point any one reason behind the film's success. Inside many incredible the historical drama led to the perfect recipe for success. James Cameron, a screenplay cleverly used or storytelling a technique and the familiar. However, it's hard to pinpoint any one reason behind the film's success. Inside many ingredients of the historical drama lead to the perfect recipe for success. James Cameron's screenplay cleverly use the old-fashioned storytelling technique and the familiar authority to concept the audience to the story and the characters with the universal them. Beyond that, the star-crossed romance of the rich girl and the poor boy, Romeo and the Juliet on the Titanic, had the universal appeal, not to mention the enable chemistry between the Winslet and the Leonardo DiCaprio as Rose and the Jack.